have a special meeting today. We have just a couple of items that we're covering, our human trafficking and child sex abuse curriculum, and then we also have Rule R277705, secondary school completion and diploma. There's some amendments there from legislative session. And let me just introduce myself. My name is Jenny Earl. I represent District 1, which is the top of the state. And I will, Member Brinton and Member Green, you are online. Vice Chair Brinton, do you want to introduce yourself first? And then we'll go through the other board members. Member Brinton, are you? You're muted if you are saying something. Okay, we will come back to you. We'll go ahead and Board Member Green, if you're online, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, Board Member Green. I represent District 14, the middle section of Utah, and happy to be here.
Thank you. Go ahead, Board Member Real, and then Vice Chair Wood.
Good morning, or middle of the day. I am Sarah Real. I represent District 5. We are in my district right now.
Okay, thank you.
Hi,
okay,
Leanne
this is
Wood.
Board Member Brinton.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Vice Chair Brinton.
Okay.
Then we'll go back to you.
Board Member Brinton from the southern part of the state. Sorry, couldn't find my microphone for a minute.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead,
Leanne Wood, District 4, South Davis County and North Salt Lake area.
Okay, and we are going to get started today. We do have one person to give us public comment, and should we have them come up here? Or, okay, come on up here. And I believe this is Lindsay, is that right? Lindsay, if you'll introduce yourself, and if you're associated with any organization or anything, we'd love to hear that. And then go ahead, we'll, roughly 2 minutes, but you're our only public comment that I know of, right? Do we have any other? Okay. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Lindsay Buttram, and I represent the Policy Project. Members of the committee, first I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today and for your continued leadership in protecting Utah students. I'm speaking today on behalf of the Policy Project in strong support of the materials review process and to ask you to approve these thoroughly vetted instructional materials you'll be seeing for full board approval. We advocated for SB 205 with the vision that every student in Utah would have access to this prevention education. But right now, less than 10% of elementary students receive it. That's simply not enough. To reach all 346,000 Utah elementary students, we need a range of high-quality, vetted instructional options. Local control works best when districts have real choices that fit the needs of their students and communities. To reach more students, we need more options. Over the past year, we've worked closely with state agencies and community stakeholders to support implementation. To support this work, the Policy Project submitted a list of 25 highly qualified reviewer candidates, and we were proud to see many participate, offering expertise as educators, health professionals, curriculum specialists, and survivors. I had the opportunity myself to serve as a reviewer and can attest to the integrity and rigor of the process. The materials you're considering today have been thoroughly evaluated against board-approved standards. I ask you to send the available options on for full board approval. This work matters. The work you're doing today will help move the needle to reach more Utah kids and protect them from abuse and trafficking. Thank you for your dedication and for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for your comments and the work that's been done there. So, okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. Do we have does someone want to give us an overview? Tanya, will you be giving us an overview on that? We'll go with an overview, and then we can move into the materials. And then I have a direction we'd like to go, but then I'm open for if board members or staff have a way they'd like to proceed. So.
Okay, good afternoon, board members. I'm Tanya Albornoz. I'm the coordinator for prevention here at USBE. I've brought with me Mindy Elliott, who is our specialist over the child sex abuse and human trafficking prevention area. And I'm going to let her start off. We're starting off with the materials, correct? Today?
Okay. Yes, we're going to the materials first.
Okay. I'm going to let her start off. We have a really short slide deck just to orient you a little bit to this process. We know a few of you are new to this and haven't really been involved before, so we wanted to provide you with a quick overview. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to Mindy. And Mindy, if you want to introduce yourself to the committee.
Hello, I'm Mindy Elliott. I am the prevention specialist over child sexual abuse and human trafficking prevention. It's nice to be here. This is sometimes a process that is not easy to navigate your first round through, and so we were just going to go through and give you a little bit of a background and some information on the prevention instructional materials. So Utah Code 53-9-207 is the Child Sexual Abuse Prevention Code, and it requires that local education agencies, LEAs, are required to train school personnel in elementary schools as well as parents of elementary students every 3 years on child sexual abuse and human trafficking prevention. They may also provide instruction on child sexual abuse and human trafficking prevention and awareness to elementary school students using board-approved, age-appropriate instructional materials. That same code, 53G-9-207, requires LEAs to use instructional materials approved by the board. And the code also requires that materials to be approved in partnership with the Department of Health and Human Services. The materials are submitted through the Recommended Instructional Materials System. That's RIMS located in Midas. And they may be submitted only twice a year for review. We have 2 submission cycles. Materials are reviewed by a review committee prior to coming to the board for approval, and we do that in conjunction with DHHS. The reviewers are chosen due to their knowledge, experience, or expertise on the subject. Like I mentioned, we have 1 reviewer from DHHS for every set of material, 1 reviewer from USBE, and an additional reviewer. Reviewers can review the materials for compliance with the minimum guidelines, so it is a pass or fail only option. There are 6 potential categories in which agencies may submit for approval. So we have child sexual abuse and human trafficking in each area for elementary students, adults serving youth, and parent guardian. Having a variety of instructional materials available to schools is crucial for addressing their specific training needs, and your dedication and efforts in this vital work of reducing child sexual abuse and human trafficking amongst students in Utah are greatly appreciated. Thank you.
And so
ahead,
we're
Tanya.
here with you today, bringing you a package of materials that have gone through that approval process. Having that original, that first committee scrutinize them and make sure that they're in line with the minimum guidelines that the board passed last November, I believe. And so what the reviewers do is they have a rubric that follow those minimum guidelines. They look at the materials, and for each different point of the rubric, they say, does it pass or does it fail? And if they find evidence that the materials cover those, then it passes. And the materials that we're bringing to you today are the ones that have passed that initial review process. So I believe it's 12, right? Yes. 12 packages of materials. They're for different, some are for students, some are for adult serving youth, which is basically any educators in the system that are required to take this training. And some of them are for parent guardians, and some of them might cover multiple categories. So we just want you to be aware of that as we're going forward in the discussion today. And with that, we'll turn it back over to you, Chair Earl.
Okay, I think the best way to proceed is I think if we go through each one of these instead of as a, you know what I mean, saying all and then we pull out different things. And the reason why is because we all have a lot of questions on how to access. It was not an easy, that might be something to consider moving forward is, I don't know if we'll always have 12 products or whatever, but one of the complications, and others may have questions or speak to this, was we had to have a login. Then once you have a login, you had to register with someone, right? And that was after we've already gone through, our process. So some of them were easier to access than others. Some of them had the scripts, but you couldn't watch the video without getting access. So it really made it complicated to try to thoroughly vet the content. I think probably the body did a pretty decent job of trying to access the best they could. There's still one item that I had some difficulty getting into, but hopefully someone else has reviewed that so they can speak one way or the other to it. So I'm just going to start at the top, because even though the material's in there, some of the materials and I'll just give an example. For example,
Member Earl? Or
Yes.
Chair Earl?
Yep.
This, and part of that, just to clarify, it's the system, not necessarily staff,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
So it's just
my
like,
apologies.
we're limited within the system, right? So that's just like, and these, these people that put out this material that they want to, for us to approve and use, they don't want to like throw it out there for everyone, because then someone could just copy it and use it. So it's like, we're limited. I just wanted to clarify, it's the system.
and thank you, that I do think that's accurate. I do wonder though, is if, as moving forward, that there's some way to help them, at least for the reviewers. I understand the confidentiality for, whoever else, but for the reviewers, which we would be considered among those, and we have to sign something that says we can't share the content, so that wouldn't be an issue, right? That we're going to send that out there, but some kind of easier access, at least maybe carrying that dialogue on with them. So just so it was somewhat cumbersome, but, yes, my apologies, it was not staff's fault. This is the way it came to us, right? And we used what came to us. It was just it was not an easy method. So yes.
Yeah, so Chair Earl, just so you know, this is kind of a new process for us, and so we're working through
Okay.
some of the bugs. I do apologize. I do know that there were some technical difficulties, and hopefully we're hoping that the next round it's going to be much easier. And we can reach out to all the organizations and make sure that they provide the links and everything that you need prior to your review next time. We're
Yeah.
learning as we're going. So.
Understood. I think we're all trying to navigate something when it's a new process and stuff. Okay, so I'm just gonna look down these. Tell me if I miss one. The first one I see is enough preventing child sexual abuse in my school. It's recommended primary. And let me just make sure I'm articulating what it's recommended for. Or maybe you could tell me. This is the adult serving youth, not any curriculum for the students. Am I saying that accurately?
I apologize. They're not always named the same on my end.
Oh, okay. No, not Boundary Town was not one. So it's enough
So
preventing child
enough.
sex abuse.
So those are approved
Oh,
for
is that
child,
yeah.
child sexual abuse, adult serving youth.
Should I could use the item number. Maybe that's easier. Okay.
Okay.
So it's adults serving youth then, right?
Yep, child sexual abuse only, not human trafficking.
Oh, okay. 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 So I guess we'll leave it open. Is there any discussion to this particular item? Did anybody have any comments on this one? Go ahead.
I'm willing to make a motion to move this one forward to the full board. So if there's particular language you'd like me to use.
Who's running is that you, Leah? Okay, do you want to I think it would be good to go by the material number, because some of the names are really close. So if we just listed it as material ID 19792, is that
Yes.
the easiest way to do that?
Yes, okay.
Okay.
I move that item 19792, enough preventing child sexual abuse in my school, be moved to the full board. Be approved.
Exclamation
Enough,
point.
exclamation point. Preventing child abuse in my school be approved by the committee and forwarded to the board for full approval.
Okay, any discussion to that motion? Okay, the motion before the committee is that that material ID 19792, Enough Preventing Child Abuse in My School, be approved by the committee and forward to the full board for approval. Did we meet all the criteria there, Michelle? Okay. Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Member Green was an aye. I don't know if you heard that.
Okay, did you, Member Britton, are you an aye as well? Let's just make sure we clarify. Okay.
Yes, Member Brenton's and I.
Okay, that one passes unanimously. We'll go to the next item that I have listed, and I'll just clarify to make sure we've got the right thing. This is item number, sorry. Okay, yep, sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. 20135, awareness and prevention of sexual abuse training. And let me just make sure this one, is this
It is approved for child sexual abuse for parents and guardians.
so this is the parents and guardian training. Okay, just making sure. Okay. Okay, is there any discussion to this before we move on? This is where the names get mixed up. If you wait just a minute, I want to just verify something. Is this the Vector Solutions one? This is
Isn't this the Sapria?
Sapria, okay. Okay. I don't
Yeah,
believe,
it was very confusing.
yeah,
with all
it's a
the
little tricky. Did we have any comments on that one? I don't think I did on that one.
This is Member Brenton. I just had written down that I would like access to the folder to see, the videos. I mean, again, just easier access because we've signed our non-disclosures, like to be able to review. So, and I think I had a question on page 56 of that one where it is saying specifically use correct terms for anatomical figures like vagina and penis. And my question was just when, like how old? What age group of kids are we talking about? Are we doing
Is
this
that parent?
with elementary kids?
Okay, so
Or
this
this is just the parent
yeah,
one?
this is the
Okay.
parent one. That's the clarification. And I had that written down too because I had a
Okay.
question on it. So, yes.
Thank you, Chair. This is Tanya Alvarez, Coordinator for Prevention. In essence, what we're asking you to do is to tell us if these materials align with the minimum guidelines. So it would be helpful if you have concerns, if you would be able to mention which minimum guideline or which minimum standard it doesn't align with, or which of the minimum guidelines you feel it doesn't pass on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. And I just want to, sorry, I have a note on page 56 and I'm trying to clarify whether this is the right one or this isn't the Vector one, right? I know, but it gets confusing. So we're good on this one then. The Vector one that I had the question on is a different one. Okay. Okay, I'm looking for a motion on this one.
I'll make a motion
Okay.
that the material ID 20135, awareness and prevention of sexual abuse training, to be approved by the committee and forwarded to the full board for approval.
Okay, so the motion before the committee is that the committee move the material ID 20135, awareness and prevention of sexual abuse training, be approved by the committee. We don't approve it, right? We just move it to the board. Okay, be approved by the committee. Is that what we do? Yeah. Make sure I'm right. Okay, that be approved by the committee and forwarded for the full board for approval. Final approval. Yeah. We probably need final approval there. Yeah. Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Member Brinton's an aye.
Yes.
Okay, and let's go to the next one. The next one I have listed is awareness and prevention of sexual abuse, and this is 20135. Oh, that's the one we just did. Sorry. Did we skip one?
Enough preventing child sexual abuse in my school. That one?
Oh, the next one is Davis. Sorry. The next one is item number 20335, Davis School District Child Sex Abuse and Human Trafficking Prevention Course. Okay, and is there any comments on this item? Yes, it's Child Sex Abuse and Human Trafficking Prevention. Sorry. Yes. Prevention course. And this is adults serving youth.
Correct.
Right? Okay. And any comments on this one? I'm going to go up because I actually had a note on this one. Give me just one question. Davis. Okay, this is my comments for Davis. Oh, this is maybe just a general thing.
Sexual abuse.
I just put, I love how they address the misconceptions by stating the facts. So I guess I'm just stating what I saw there. Then the grooming cycle, they were very specific about the 5 stages and then asking questions about that. I thought that was very well done. So just sharing what I came across there. I do have a note back on Cypria. We may have to go back to that one. I do have, my note here is slide 40 was the one I had a question on with age-appropriate developmental behaviors. Unless I'm looking at the wrong one, but we can go back to that. Sorry, we'll go back to that one in a minute. Are there any other comments about the Davises? Davis school districts? The Davises? No? Okay, looking for a motion then.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do you need the number on that one?
I have it here.
Oh, it is up there, okay.
Okay. I move that the material 20335 Davis School District Child Sexual Abuse and Human Trafficking Prevention course be approved by the committee and forwarded to the board for final approval.
Okay, the motion before the committee is that material ID 20335 Davis School District Child Sexual Abuse and Human Trafficking Prevention course be approved by the committee and forwarded to the board for final approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
That passed unanimously. And then can we go just back up so that we're not mixing these up? Back to can we check on slide number 40 on the previous item? And specifically, it's what I would call an outdated document that I think does violate our laws. It talks about, it's slide 40, stages of sexual development. If someone can check that to make sure I'm in the right, if that's in that, yeah, that's got to be removed. I don't think it violates our laws. We don't, yeah, so.
So Chair Earl,
we'll have to bring it back. But I just wanted to verify it's the right one. Yeah.
on Cypria.
Yeah.
Member.
I would ask that I'm making the recommendation because I think it,
We'll need a moment.
Chair Earl,
yes.
is that towards me? Sorry, Member Green.
I'm sorry, Board Member Green, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I do feel bad that we just voted, but slide 39 also is, we had wanted to address the messaging about kids going online. keep it that sharing images is a problem, and those things can be shared online. So I think there was like this emphasis that we wanted to maybe clarify a little bit better on slide 39. And then slide 40 is definitely that document that we had previously addressed in a standards and assessment meeting a year or two ago. And that one would be in violation. So with that knowledge, how do we address that?
We'll have to bring it back up.
Communicating with the grade.
Yeah. So,
And what does it look like, the logistics of that, when we communicate that to this document? Does that go to them and then they adjust it and they bring it back to the full board? I'm just looking for how the process works.
they don't have to, but it would also maybe mean that it probably doesn't get approved. So, I guess depending on the votes, board members can decide not to do it, but I think it's a courtesy to let them know what the concern is. Would that be accurate or not?
So Chair Earl, if I may, this is a straight, you approve it or you don't approve it. And then if you don't approve it, we would send back your comments to the organization and they would have an opportunity to address them and resubmit in the next submission cycle. But it would not pass the submission cycle.
Why?
That's generally how we do it.
Is there a law that says the only reason why I'm saying that is it has to come to us. We have to seek approval. So I would think that someone that went through the process and we still have concerns that there's some legal pieces to it,
If that's what you want to direct us to do, then we will do that.
I think you could notify them that there's some concerns, that even though it went through the rubric, that if they address the concerns, it would meet the criteria in the rubric.
That's what I'm wondering, is this something that we could do in process where we say, like, we like all of this except for one slide that has concerning that we don't know whether or not it fully
Aligns with
complies.
yeah.
So
But
I'm going to ask Terry Davis
Okay.
to address that question.
So Terry Davis, instructional materials specialist, previous, because Amber is taking over. But in my experience with instructional materials, the board can decide what they would like to do with each material. If it would seem that if there is an easy fix in previous history, if it was an easy, quick fix, then we allowed the publisher to make that adjustment and then verify, the specialist verify that the adjustment has been made, and then it could qualify as being approved, but not until that adjustment's been made. Or if you would like to, because we don't have a commission, you can decide to make it not recommended because it's not following the law and it's not compliance with the law. And then until they are compliant, they can resubmit the following bid cycle. So if it's, I would say that it would be up to the board to decide what they would like to do with that material.
Okay, and the reason why is I know so many of these organizations have worked hard on trying to get this in. It's taken them a year. Some of them wanted it approved last year. If there's a way that we can help them get it over the finish line, I think this body would like to do that. Understanding they don't have to make the changes, right? They don't have to make the changes, but I think there's some changes in here that's why we're doing this, is so we could indicate this probably I wouldn't move it forward without the changes. So, additional,
I just wanted to make sure that we're following the submission cycle rules. So
right.
that since that's not my area of expertise, then I defer
No,
to
you're good.
Terry.
Yeah.
So
that's
thank you
good.
for that, and we'll do whatever you direct us to do.
Yeah. Do you have a?
Yes, please. I have a clarifying question.
Yes.
So I'm taking notes. On slide 39, can Board Member Green say again what it was she wanted need to be fixed about slide 39?
Yes, and Member Brinton, if you could help add on to that. I don't know if, I can't remember if that was from you. Needing to address the messaging about kids going online. Just letting them, we should keep we need to let them understand that sharing images is a problem, and those images, once released from them, can be shared online. It's just a level of safety and security.
And I believe it's because it was very specific to a specific group and not broadly focused, so that all students understand they could be the target of this and not just a particular group. That was the concern on 39.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go
Just
ahead.
trying to see this with my notes because I don't have the slide pulled up. Is this the one about Sarah going online, trying to connect with kids?
Sky.
I'd have to
Sky.
bring it up again.
Because it specifically mentioned one group. Like, I just think it should be general. And, if you're going online, trying to connect with kids, to be careful and not just a small marginalized group or whatever, but that we want all children to be safe and be wary that this is a concern for anyone going online connecting.
Do you have a question?
No, I just want to make a clarification if I may.
Yeah.
So in HB 40, this last session, there was language specifically passed to address that issue. However, it was just passed in the last session. And so those items specifically stating about the dangers of kids sharing images and things online are not included in the minimum guidelines that these materials fall under. So if they included information about it, it was at their own discretion, but it wasn't required, is what I'm saying.
Right, and I think the idea is that it's broad. It's not narrowly focused, so that the idea being we're trying to encompass as many students as we want, as we can. Does that make sense? So to make sure that it's broad enough that students understand. I understand it's maybe not a requirement, but, okay, so that's one of the one recommend, yes?
I'm so sorry. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, because sometimes the slides don't always align, and I want to make sure that we're on the right side. The slide I'm looking at on slide 39 is on the PowerPoint. It's practice identifying grooming behaviors. It's a scenario with Sky.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I may have to do my credentialing to get back into it. Sorry. And I don't think I'm allowed to do all kinds of screenshots. That's probably not appropriate. And then the slide 40 would follow that, right? That talks about age-appropriate development. Right, so yes, and that one would need to be, that one's no longer on our site. So that one seems, there's pieces of this that would, what I would consider contrary messaging. So I would recommend that that's removed. And if you want me to be more specific on the contrary messaging, I can, but I don't know if.
Member Earl? Or
Yes.
Chair
Yeah.
Earl?
Go ahead.
I'm not understanding the changes that are being recommended for 39 because it's specific to grooming. So and what the stages of grooming are. And so I'm trying to understand how what changes are being recommended for online use. Can that be clarified by Member Brinton and Member Earl if they so choose?
I need to pull up the slide. We may have the wrong slide here.
Yeah, we would have, you're right, we'd have to bring it back up. So give me just 1 second. Board Member Brenton, do you want to see if you can find that? We're going to move to the next item. We can still come back to this one before we're done, and then we can be specific in the articulation of what the concern is. So I'll let you see if you can get into there. We're going to move to the next item, and then we'll come back to that towards the end. So the next item I have is 20508, which is child abuse ASY. Am I in the right spot with everyone here? No? Oh, I got to go to the limited, sorry. Child Speak Limited. Am I?
thought it was child abuse.
We'll come back. Well, it's not real, there was no motion, we were just started discussing it, so we got to come back with a motion to actually bring it back up. Yeah. Child Speak has recommended limited. Right?
Yes, so they submitted for it's pulling up, child sexual abuse for all three areas, our elementary students, adult serving youth, and parents and guardians. And the parents and guardians did not pass. So they were passed for adult serving youth and elementary students.
Okay, so those are the two we're looking at. And let me make sure I get the numbers right on the curriculum. You'll have to, if you can double check me. Is it 20526?
It is 20513.
That's the reviewer tutorial. So 20526 maybe.
Yes, we can use that number.
Okay, and then 2027, those two would be together, right?
20527.
20527. And then the other one did not pass. Did we get all the curriculum that would be incorporated just in those two items there? Okay. So are there any questions on child help, speak up, be safe, child abuse prevention curriculum?
I do have a question.
Okay.
And it comes down to just the logistics that if part of it didn't pass, it would seem that we wouldn't move this one forward if all of it didn't pass. Is that correct?
Someone answer that.
We have, where our materials are slightly unique in that we have elementary student facing materials, parent guardian materials, and adult serving youth materials, and they would be 3 different trainings. That's up to the board to decide what to do with that. But we did find our review team that the parents and guardians is the only one that we felt did not meet the rubric.
Okay. Did that answer your question?
Would we need?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just logistically again, I'm just wondering, do we separate to move anything forward? We would maybe separate out then what was approved and leave off what wasn't approved. Or, I mean, that's how I would see.
Are you
if we were wanting
suggesting,
to move
are you
together
asking
forward.
if we need to make a motion not to approve
Yes.
something? Okay.
No, I'm suggesting to make a motion that would move forward what was approved and leave what wasn't approved
Okay.
in this situation.
Cheryl.
I don't know
Yes.
if that's appropriate.
So we are only recommending the 2 that passed the committee. So we are not recommending the parent guardian. We are only asking you to approve adult serving youth and elementary student.
Okay, and those are the numbers we do have listed. So Emily, I think we've listed only the ones that are being recommended.
Okay,
Does
thank
that
you.
work? Okay. Okay, I'm looking for,
Yep, just wanted to verify that.
yeah, looking for a motion for this. So Board Member Rills, go ahead.
That materials ID 20526 and 20527, Child Help, Speak Up, Be Safe, Child Abuse Prevention Curriculum be approved by the committee and forwarded to the board for final approval.
Okay, the motion before the committee is that the committee approve materials ID 20526 and ID 20527, Child Help, Speak Up to Be Safe, Child Abuse Prevention Curriculum be approved by the committee and forwarded to the board for final approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, we are now on child abuse ASY, and the number is 20508. And let me make sure, is this, what curriculum is this? Is this children's? Is this adults? Is this all of them?
This would be the Child Abuse ASY.
Yeah. Just a clarification, which one is it?
So Vector submitted 2 separate materials. The 20508 is recommended for child sexual abuse for adult serving youth.
Okay, so that's the one we have before us. Okay, so that's it, right? That's all I'm seeing right here. Okay. Okay, I just have one note. Maybe, I don't know if anybody's really listening out there, and I just have the note that the way they worded their grooming techniques, the way they articulated, I just want them to know they did it. I thought that it was worded well, and that they did a good job. They put on their know and trust, not just. Anyways, I just thought it was worded well. I'm just throwing it out there for kudos for them. So,
You can provide your comments.
what's that?
We're happy to provide your
Okay.
comments to them.
If anyone wants to hear that in Techville, so let me just see if I have any other notes on it. I just have on page 56, I have something that says not accurate. And this one okay, but this was, can we just check, this is adults, is this adults again? Okay, so we're good. We're good then. Never mind. That question is only relevant if it were in the classroom setting. So I just write those down as I go. So I think we're good on that. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion on this one. We're just back and forth here, ping pong.
Wait, I have a question. This is the vector training, correct?
Yes, it is
For adults.
Adult training prevention video.
for adults.
I wrote down, yeah, one question. I was just confused a little bit in their messaging where it said in the prevention video, not to interview children, but then there were suggestions for how to put a child at ease, and do different. So I felt like it was giving instructions for how to interview, but then saying don't interview children. So I was just concerned about what the intent was there. Do you know?
Yeah,
Did
can you
all go
clarify
through
that for us?
Sure, and I'm not the author of the material, but when we do provide training to all adults serving youth in schools, and so where they wouldn't be the appropriate person, and we never want to interview students about child sexual abuse, we want to make sure that we're referring to the appropriate agencies. But sometimes a student might come to an adult in a school in a way where they are upset and they are trying to disclose, and we want to make that a safe place for students to be able to disclose, and that they would report that abuse. So I think that is the purpose behind that. I hope I provided some clarification.
Okay, Board Member Brinton, do you have a different or additional feedback on that, or does that
No,
sound?
I think that helps. I mean,
Okay.
I thought we're training them to be the front line to spot things and to be a safe space if a child is in trouble and wants to come to them, right? But then they're being instructed also, like, don't try to isolate a student and set about to interview them. So I just wondered if that could be clarified a little better, because it was a little confusing to me in the messaging, but thank you.
So, Board Member Brinton, when we do, in a few minutes, we will do our rubric, right? And if you want to put something with more clarification in there, we could always do it there. That would be for those that are moving forward, not this time, but the next round, to make sure it's clear on
Okay.
that, okay? If someone can remember to remind me to remind her, okay. Okay, yes, go ahead.
All right. I move that the material ID 20508 Child Abuse ASY be approved by the committee and forward to the board for final approval.
Okay, so the motion before us is that the material ID 20508 Child Abuse ASY be approved by the committee and forwarded to the board for final approval. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that was unanimous. And the next one I have is Human Trafficking Prevention 20510. And this is Vector again, and this is their student.
No, this is human trafficking for adult serving
Oh,
youth.
okay,
So the
okay.
other one was child sexual
ya.
abuse. This one's human trafficking.
That's right, because you could go in and it was the modules, right? Okay, so this is the human trafficking piece to that. Okay, any additional comments on this one? Okay, I'm looking for a motion for this.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
That material ID 20510 human trafficking vector be approved by the committee and forwarded to the board for final approval.
Okay, so the motion before the committee is that that material ID 20510 human trafficking vector be approved by the committee and forwarded to the board for final approval. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
There we go. Okay, that was unanimous. And the next item is Lauren's kids. And we have 2 items for approval, right? Can we, I'm gonna do these separate because I do have a recommendation on one. And this consumed the better part of my weekend. There's a lot to go through here. And I still am not sure if I think I got pretty close. So this first one I think is 20517. This would be, now, okay, I've got a question. We don't do the teens.
Correct.
So but the teens was included. So where does it go up to, if someone can clarify that? Just to the 6th grade piece? If it's in elementary, it would be the 6th grade piece. If not, it would be then they would do what's approved by the district. Is that accurate? Yeah, okay. So, my recommendation, and I'll tell you why, is that we approve K through 3 and then 5 and 6 and not 4. The grades, and I can speak to that. In the 4th grade, for some reason, there were 2 things they did. They had the Lauren person do this thing where she snaps and she goes back in time and back in places, which, first of all, I'm a little concerned that we're doing kind of magic school bus on a very serious topic kind of a thing, but specifically she goes into a student had something happen. They weren't sure what it was. Her and another, the other leader there, go back into the student's room, and then the student, when they show up there, says, "How did you get in my room? Did my brother let you in?" It seems to violate every provision that we teach the kids about privacy and just that idea that she can travel into spaces and things that really, in reality, you can't do, number one, and then also you shouldn't do. So I just had some concerns there. And then the whole thing centered around children's rights, children's rights, children's rights. The upper grades did not focus on that, and the younger grades did not. They stuck pretty strictly to it. So I feel like that if a school chose to use this, they could use the 4th grade with the 5th grade or the other, but the 4th grade seems out of compliance, and just seemed to violate some of the things that we're really trying to articulate with these. But that's my motion.
Does anyone have any clarification on that piece, or anyone that reviewed it?
I don't have clarification, but as we provide feedback and as I'm telling the organizations, yes, you were approved or yes, you were not, it's just very helpful if we can speak to the piece of the minimum guidelines that we didn't feel like they met.
Let me go into the minimum guidelines.
I'm sorry.
It just has to do with boundary violations. You could start there with student boundary violations, where, I don't know. Let me look. I think that's far enough right there. I could give some additional information later, but that's where I would start. I just don't have the whole document in front of me, but if you want to wait a minute, I can look it up. Yeah, I think that would be it too.
Fine question.
Yes, go ahead, Board Member Brinton.
So I'm looking at the review collection details and the rubric where it shows that it's passed. And the only thing that's really graded is number 1, adherence to administrative rule. Administrative rules change frequently, so please make sure that it's all in compliance with 277-630. Every other thing in the rubric says the item has not been graded. So how does that work? Because
are
we're
you
being
looking,
asked to
I just want to make sure,
specifically, I'm looking at the child abuse and human trafficking collection details for Lauren's Kids Safer that we're talking about right
Yes.
now. And it's recommended as primary, but then if you look at the rubric, my question, we're being asked to be very specific about what it's not adhering to when we see concerns. But like I said, I'm concerned that the rubric only has one thing where it shows, yes, it's adhering, and then none of the others down the line on the rubric show any grade or any listing.
yeah, let's get a
So how is
clarification on
that
that. I
really
think I know the
reviewed?
answer, but go ahead. We've got someone to clarify that.
So
I mean,
just
I'm
to-
brand new here, so, you know, I realize I'm learning this process, but
And I understand the confusion. Due to the system, we have one rubric in there, and it's at the very, very bottom under child sexual abuse prevention, elementary student. So you have to scroll all the way down through adult serving youth and all the way down through parent guardian to get to the bottom.
Because this is not an adult serving youth curriculum. It wasn't graded. And so we have to go down to the,
Okay.
yeah, there you go.
I did not. Gotcha.
That's
Okay.
a good question though for clarification.
Thank you,
so.
because I didn't get all the way down there. I just saw that nothing else was graded the first couple of pages and thought, this is odd, but thank you.
Okay. Are there additional comments on that?
Does this reflect your motion, Chair?
Yes. I don't think it hinders anything from being, if someone chooses to use one of the other pieces in fourth grade. And I felt like it wasn't, when I looked at it, and this is just me, I mean, if people don't want to agree with me, that's fine too. But it covered those pieces that were in the I think in the minimum guidelines. So, okay. Do you want to make the motion or you want me to make a motion? I'll make the motion. Member Earl moved that material ID 20517, Lawrence Kids Sexual Abuse and Human Trafficking Prevention grades K through 3 and 5 through 6, child education, be approved by the committee and forwarded to the board for final approval. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No.
Wait, what? So did you vote
and
yes
just
or
to
no? You were-
clarify,
Go ahead, Board Member Green, did you? I have a no
just
with
to
you, right?
clarify. Yeah,
Okay. Okay,
I just wanted to maybe see the alignment
Yep.
throughout K through 6 through that. So, and that's just to clarify.
okay, perfect. Okay, that passed with a 4-1. Member Green is opposed. She's seeking some clarification between now and the board meeting, so. Okay, and then next item. Let me, sorry, go back to our document here. It never sends me, I always have to scan right back down everything, sorry. That's it on that, right? Was that all on that one? Okay, making sure on that one. The next one we have is human trafficking prevention. What passed? It's recommended limited, so make sure I get the right ones here. We have the adult serving youth and parent guardian passed. And let me give the number. Tell me if I'm right. Sorry. Okay, so it would be 20529 and 20530, right? Did I do that correctly? Okay. Okay. Any questions on these or comments on these?
Well, since you were doing positive callouts, I
Yeah.
really appreciated the paces in the parent guardian where it talked about those positive experiences that support the students. I think that's really helpful for parents. Like, how can I establish that foundation? So I really appreciated them calling. I felt that to be a unique thing for this particular.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was trying, let me see if I have any. No, I didn't.
3SGF Protect Utah.
No. Yeah, did we get that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then, could you repeat your,
The numbers?
kudo? So I
Oh, yep.
There was a slide regarding PACES, and I will let someone else tell them what it stands for.
Positive childhood experiences.
Mhm. It's good to see we're moving in that direction. So, okay, let me make sure I'm on the human trafficking prevention. Okay, I think we're ready for a motion. Board member, what do you want to make that motion on that one? Okay. Okay. All right, I'll make the motion that the material ID 20529 and 20530 which is the Asian Association of Utah, be approved by the committee and forwarded to the board for final approval. All those in favor? Aye.
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 And board member Rill is not here right now. She stepped out. Oh, there she is. Are you a yes on? Yes. That passes unanimously. Our next one is child sex abuse and human trafficking prevention. And this, the only one approved is, let's see, it's Aiden's Discovery 20535. Did I get that number right? Someone confirm that with me. That's the 6th grade module or curriculum or whatever. Someone correct me if I'm off on anything there.
It's Family Haven.
What's that?
That's correct. Family Haven. Does it go with the Aiden's?
I think, yeah, Aiden's Discovery, 6th grade. Yeah, oh, Play It Safe, sorry. Play It Safe. Aiden's Discovery, 6th grade is the only one that passed. So. And I would say, I thought this was actually well done. It didn't, I thought they addressed some tough issues without getting into, you know what I mean? It was age appropriate. It didn't lean into things it shouldn't, and it helped. I think it showed both the adults that helped, the adults that hurt, and how to work within those parameters. It was well done. So just, if we're doing kudos again. So, okay, so would someone like to make this motion?
I would love to make this motion
Okay.
because I also thought it was very well done. It was engaging also.
Yep, it was spot on.
All right, I move that material ID 20535, Play It Safe, Aiden's Discovery, 6th grade, be approved by the committee and forwarded to the board for final approval.
Okay, so the motion before the board, or before the committee, is that material ID 20535, Play It Safe, Aiden's Discovery, 6th grade, be approved by the committee and forwarded to the board for final approval. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Now remind me what's different between that and the next one.
So Family Haven and Family Support Centers of Utah submitted identical
Oh. So we don't need to
instructional
approve.
materials.
Do we need to approve this? It's the same item, isn't it?
Yes,
Okay.
we're fine to have you just approve it one time, and then we'll let the other organization know that that material
Okay.
was approved.
Okay.
So it would be materials 20535 and 20538.
So maybe we could, can we, yeah, we did
I
approve it.
amend my motion to 20535 and 20538. And maybe we need to
I'm going
vote
to take
again.
some leniency on that. Because okay, what's that? We're going to revote on this. We're just adding, it's the same material, two organizations submitted the same material. And so just to make sure there's clarification there, we're going to revote on it. It's ID 20535 and 20538, which is the exact same material. It's Play It Safe, Aiden's Discovery, 6th grade, be approved by the committee and forwarded to the board for final approval. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, that passes unanimously. And then we're down to 3SGF, Protect Utah Adult Serving Youth Training. And that's materials 20539 And I have a couple of items that need to be included on this one, like others. So, slide 20, it needs to list, and I don't know if this is the same in the video. I think this was tricky because we couldn't watch the video, but we had the script, right? Am I saying that right? But I wasn't able to access the video because you had to have a login and stuff for that. But instead of citing, I'm making the recommendation for this organization that they remove LGBTQIA2S+, and the language we use in Utah Code is diverse genders or sexual orientation. That whatever we use in code, they use the code language. We don't use that language in code, so that it's clear there. That's one recommendation. That's on slide 20. And then on, there is I believe it's on slide 46. That whole, I'm asking that whole section just be removed. And it's talking about what to do for at-risk students, but it has counselors going to outside entities, referring kids to outside entities. It's missing what we just passed, or not just passed, but that idea that you've got to actually engage with a parent. There's nothing in there. And then there's also, it's not really our practice to refer to third-party providers. We usually refer someone to an organization that the state, like a health department or something, and it's referring to outside organizations for services. Would you like me to see if I can make sure I locate the exact slide? Do you know what I'm referring to? I'm asking that the at-risk piece be removed and that they just have the reporting. So.
Could you give me the ID number that you're referencing so I know what document to go into?
Yes, it's 20539.
Member Earl?
Yes.
Are you asking that that the entire protocol for reporting suspected or confirmed cases of
No,
child trafficking?
I'm asking the
or
at-risk piece be removed.
just the step referring to?
Nope, sorry, let me get to it.
Oh, wait, okay, I see. I thought that was
There's
just
two
the same
different-
heading.
Nope.
So you're asking for that steps 1 through 4 for reporting at-risk students?
At-risk students, yes,
Got it.
because
Okay,
all of
thank
them
you
are
for
referring to it.
clarifying.
Yep, okay. Let me make sure I've got the right. Is it page 43, 46? I'm not sure. I'm looking down it. Okay, so page 46. Yeah, we want the reporting protocol. That's what's required in the rubric. But the second thing is protocol for reporting at-risk students to services.
We were just looking that up, so give us one moment.
Okay. Do we report at-risk students to services? My biggest concern is that there's nothing in here about, it's a counselor, but there's no parent engagement on any of these, and I don't think we can legally do that. Even a student support form, I just don't know. I don't know if this is unique for a district or, so where this is going statewide, I think maybe this has been pulled from another district or something, I don't know. It wasn't in their previous materials they submitted, didn't have it, so.
So Chair Earl,
Yeah.
on the minimum guidelines, on page 12 for the elementary student, we have number 6, which says risk factors, discuss certain traits or behaviors of a child that can put them at higher risk. Those who have a history of sexual abuse, dating violence, low self-worth, or lack of social support. Other factors include lack of personal safety, isolation, emotional distress, homelessness, poverty, family dysfunction, substance abuse, mental illness, learning disabilities, developmental delay, childhood sexual abuse, and sexual exploitation by family members or peers. Children and youth who are engaged, it just goes on to talk about sex.
They articulate that, but that's not what this is. This is a reporting mechanism. You're reporting students.
We just wanted to make sure that you knew that.
Yeah, and I think in their other areas, they do indicate the risk factors. We're not removing risk factors. What we're doing is, why would they be reporting someone that's at risk? Does that make,
Oh, gotcha.
just an at-risk student does not, just because you have a risk factor does not mean you're reported for something. Does that make sense? A district can provide services if they go through the proper channels, and I think that's what it's trying to say. But this, I would just ask that we ask the organization to remove this because we don't report at-risk students. Does that make sense? We report abuse, we report, right?
Yes, that makes sense.
So, okay.
Member Earl?
Yes.
If we were, I see you're trying to eliminate it, but it really is about protocol for referring.
Right, correct.
As opposed to reporting. Okay.
But it doesn't really even follow the right referral either. I think every district is going to be different. So I would recommend it's not. I would recommend it's not there. So.
So Chair Earl,
Yes.
quick clarification. You're recommending that they remove those items in order for them to receive approval?
Yep.
Okay.
What's that? Uh-huh.
Okay, so hang on.
I did, actually. Yeah.
Section.
Actually, this is not the practice. They said they got this from a district. This is not their practice.
Does that get at what you're asking?
46.
Chair?
Let me, sorry. Yeah. Yes. The at-risk students, not section, because I don't know, it's.
Page 45.
Or 45, it's the protocol. If you just put protocol, yeah.
Member
Yeah.
Earl, do we have to ask them to, do we have to approve this pending the publisher approving the removal of this section? Because it's their
Right.
choice whether or not they do it. So we are approving it pending
Yeah,
their approval of them removing it.
yeah.
Does
Yeah.
that clarify
Yes.
reality, I
Yeah.
guess?
Yep. Let me just see if I had any others. I think that was it on that one.
So clarification.
Yes.
If we go to the publisher and they agree before it goes to full board, can you help us understand the process? Or if they don't agree to?
Well, I think that would receive their feedback, and then it was either updated or not, and that would be what comes before the board.
Yeah, how do they submit those amended materials?
I think they would, those good questions.
The system doesn't allow them to submit them.
Okay, so we have no way of, if they update it, we can't say that it's updated? How do we put it on our website? We don't send them to the RIMS to put it on our website. It would seem that whatever we approve would be then put onto our website, but that's not RIMS. That's the materials, right?
So Terry Davis,
Yeah.
Instructional Materials Specialist, Utah State Board of Education. If the links for the materials are in real time, so if it is a link to a slide, they can actually update that slide and it will update with the link connected to it. But in RIMS.
Okay, so they would just submit an updated, that's kind of the term, I guess, submit an updated link.
If it's a PDF or something like that, they can ask for a substitution and we can do a substitution.
Okay. Well, that's why we're all doing it today, right? Okay, so that's what, all right, do we need to change that pending the, no, because they would just then submit an updated document that would reflect this, and if so, then it would move forward, right?
We can ask Midas to put that in for us, or we
So it
can
could-
make the swap if they like email it to me.
And then it
we
could,
put it in.
for people to, I see what you're saying, so that people can review it, right?
Uh-huh.
So could it just say updated after it, so that we know updated and a date that it was updated?
Yeah, we could put that in the narrative of the evaluation.
Could it actually be I think it's got to be more than that, so that because it's a little hard already to navigate, that when it has the document, it would have to say the document again and the updated document. Does that make sense? Or not? You're saying that can't?
We can just make the substitution straight across so it's compliant with what you would like.
Okay, and then it just, somewhere we got to indicate it's been updated, right?
Yeah.
Or
We could put that in the narrative.
You're thinking.
I was just trying to think if there was a different way, but like Terry said, we could put in the narrative that it's updated, but they wouldn't be able to know, like there wouldn't be anything else that says this document replaced this document. We would just have it in the narrative that it was updated.
That's why I wondered if there was if it could be the code number, like the 20561, and then updated next to it, or maybe it's, I don't know, or even -2. I don't know if that works though, because you guys have the system you got to work with, right?
We could have the publisher change or edit that title, and they could put in parentheses updated
Okay,
on that material title.
That would be good. And if they choose not to update it, then it would remain the same, right?
Right.
Okay. Any other questions on? Yes.
This is not for this material. Back when we were talking about the Family Haven and Family Support Centers of Utah, for 4th through 5th grade, we said that they did not pass, but they did pass for child sexual abuse, but they did not pass for human trafficking, and we never voted on that.
Oh, that's why
You
it
never
was
voted on that.
separate? Hold on.
Yes. So there are 3 areas. It's a little bit complicated.
Okay,
so
we'll
they
come
did-
back. Let's finish this
Okay,
and we'll come back to that. That's why I wondered why there were 2 separate areas. Is that why? Oh, okay. So we couldn't have just, okay. We can go back and redo the motion in just a minute. Let's finish this one out. So the motion is that material ID number 20539S 3SGF, Protect Utah, pending the removal of the reporting at-risk student protocol, and it also has to include it's the updated language for gender and diverse genders and sexual orientation. That needs to be, that's slide 20. It needs to use Utah, whatever Utah, I can just put that, whatever Utah law is on that, it needs to use that language. And that's slide 20. Okay, so on page 45 needs to go up with the previous ones. Yep. Okay, let me try this again. Okay, so material ID 20539S3SGF, Protect Utah, pending the removal of the reporting at-risk student protocol on page 45 and including updated language on slide 20 to be in compliance with Utah law, be approved by the committee and forwarded to the board for final approval. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, that one is a 4 in favor, 1 opposed, and that would be board member Green. And then next, so tell me what you were talking about.
If you would like to finish with the 3 strands, we can revisit
okay.
that at the end.
All right, let me go back out here again, get to the next one. So on 3 strands we have 2 items. We'll do each of these separate because I think there were a couple of recommendations to make sure it aligned on these. So K through 3, so 20, how do you want me to do this? Okay, so 20540, K3 Protect Utah Curriculum, My Protective Shield. This is human trafficking and CSA. Okay. Okay. Let me go to my notes. I had just a couple of items in this one. I think maybe others did too. Sorry, let me go back to my email here. It's the last one on there. You probably gave the title. This is there because there's 2 pieces. I think it might be good to vote on these separate, because it's the younger grades and the upper grades. Oh, sorry. Give me just 1 second here, I apologize.
Serving youth training and then the Utah curriculum like Protected Shield and then safe people, safe spaces, safe choices.
Yes.
I just did the main title, so okay, it is different because they're going to separate them out.
Okay, so I have, goodness, I have on slide 39, there is a need to address kids going online. It talks about, it just needs to, just a simple change for them that people they meet online are not trusted adults. There's just a really simple thing there that, especially for younger children, that we shouldn't be using that. Yeah, video game, yep, that's correct. So on slide 39, to delete video games. I don't think that would be in compliance with law, that we're encouraging them.
I mean, I don't think there's a law against playing video games.
It's not that, it's that that's a safe person, is someone they've met, that they're forming a relationship with someone on. Yeah. And then, actually, I think that's slide 10, my apologies. Slide 10. Because I'm looking down at it. Let me see if I have my other note here. Okay, and then also, what was the one, Leanne, do you have the one that you were?
I
Is
have
it not the K through 3? Am I?
I have page 10 for that one. And then I have a 42, which I'm not sure if that's a page number or not. But I'd like them to consider a different word than secret code, because we've already talked about secret being, we don't tell secrets, we don't keep secrets, and then we tell them to create a secret code. So whether it's a passcode or something, but just to
Just so it's
avoid,
not conflicting.
Yeah, avoid the misunderstanding. It might be 42. I'm not sure why I have a 42 circled there.
Oh, here it is. Sorry, it took me a minute to find mine. So slide 10, they just need to remove video games. And I could read the sentence so people know what it is. It says they can also be people who have, this is talking about someone who they can trust, who have met through activities that you like to do, like, and then we just arts, sports, religion, and more, instead of putting video games. Slide 26, oh no, slide 42, to remove secret code and put in there code word or password, something other than that, so it's not conflicting with the messaging in the document. And then I think this is just a technical error. They have on slide 26, they've been using the word empowered for their choice, but on one of their slides it says enthusiastic instead of empowered. I think it just aligning with the rest of their, that's probably more of a technical error than it is a, if that makes sense. Were you able to find it? Okay. So that's the younger grades. That's what we had there. Anybody online have any additional feedback on that?
No, mine was similar. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Good.
Okay. Let's check the motion then and make sure it's correct. Let me see. Video games, yep, and secret code. And then there was one, and then just the technical change of making sure that their language aligned with empowerment. Empowered. Okay, our consistency, yep. Empowered, yep. That works. Okay, so the motion is the material ID 20540 3SGF K3 Protect Utah Curriculum, My Protective Shield, pending the removal of video games on slide 10 and making a substitution for the word secret on slide 42, and ensuring the use of the word empowered is consistent, be approved by the committee and forwarded to the board for final approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, Board Member Green's a no. Board Member Brinton?
Yes.
Board Member Brinton's a yes. Okay. And then we have one more document, unless I'm mistaken, right? Are we on the, oh no, and then we got to go back and make 2 corrections. Okay. So Board Member Brinton, will be just letting you know, and FYI, we'll be back to that one we left hanging if you were able to look that up. Okay, so this document is number 20541. 4 through 6, Protect Utah Curriculum, Safe People, Safe Places, and Safe Choices. And there is a correction there. Board Member Brinton brought this one up, that on slide 30, it should say that if they're abused by anyone, not just an adult. So if we could put that in. So on slide 30, they need to change adult to anyone, so that it's not mixed the message that it's anybody that abuses a child or they feel uncomfortable with. Yeah, slide 30 or page 30. I don't know if it's slide or page. Changing anyone, or changing adult to anyone when it comes to inappropriate touch or abuse. I can't remember the exact language, but so. Did you get enough clarification on that? Okay. Okay, so I'll go ahead and move that the motion before the board is that, or for the committee, is to move material ID 20541 3SGF 4 through 6, Protect Utah Curriculum, Safe People, Safe Places, Safe Choices, pending changing adult to anyone on slide 30, be approved by the committee and forward to the board for final approval. All those in favor? Aye. Aye.
Chair.
Aye.
Do we need a?
Yes.
Okay,
We're not able to find that last one.
okay. Let me see if I can locate it for us real quick here. Make sure we've got the right page number. This is the older group, so. Okay. Did you find it?
Yes.
Okay, so you know where that's at. Okay, is the right page? Okay. Okay, so that is unanimous. Okay.
He's having trouble getting back in.
Okay, and I just wanted to make mention, especially with Three Strands, in the fall, there was a number of items with their curriculum that would not have made it through, and they've worked hard to update those and to try to align it with Utah law. So I just wanted to kind of throw a shout out for those that are working hard to put things in line so they're age appropriate. They're not stepping over the line for young children, but they're also helping to provide appropriate resources. So, okay, we've got to go back to a couple of items. We've got to go back to, let me see if I get this right.
I'm sorry, I can't get back into that Sapria. It's telling me it's too big to download. I know I opened it once before through
Check-
Dropbox, but
Check and see if you've downloaded it to your computer. Mine's downloaded on mine.
well, when I tried to open it today, it says it's too big to download. So
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can get in.
I do just want to give a shout out to this curriculum. I mean, I have loved going through and seeing the empowerment and education on boundaries and safe spaces and children being given a voice to speak up. Like overall, I just want to say bravo for such important things that we teach our students.
And I
So
do-
I'm grateful.
Yeah, I was going to add one more thing to that. So many of them did put it back, that responsibility back to the adults. Sometimes curriculum tries to say that the child's responsible for certain things, and that's adults are responsible to protect children. And so many of these curriculums were very reflective of that. That's putting it back in the proper order, so to speak, and putting adults are accountable, and they need to be accountable. And I think that will help reduce that. So, okay, so we needed to change. Help me make sure we get this right. So it's do we need to pull the motion back up? Michelle, is that the way to do that? Probably by a vote, to re-vote on it?
Normally you would say that having voted on the prevailing side,
Okay. All right, let me make sure we do that. It's the one highlighted, right? That was the first one. Okay, now let's go down to the other one first so that we can see if we can get anyone into the other one. No, it's down, it's not child speak, it's Aiden's 20538, 205. Well, I thought we had to make a change on Aiden's. We have to vote on them separate because they're two separate things. The one is human. I don't know what the.
So on the Chase Steps Up for 4th and 5th grade, it's 20537. It did pass the review for child sexual abuse, but not for human trafficking, and we just did not address that one.
So what does that mean? I
There
don't
are
understand what that means.
So if you look at the minimum guidelines, remember when we went through our introduction, there are 6 possible categories. So child sexual abuse for all 3 areas: elementary student, adult serving youth, and parent guardian, and then human trafficking. So potentially if they say they want their materials reviewed they can choose either child sexual abuse and or human trafficking. And so when we put it on the approved list on our website, we will say this material is approved for child sexual abuse. We have a separate section for human trafficking. I hope that helps clarify.
No,
Yes.
so we just have to put human trafficking on here.
So no, they passed the review for child sexual abuse, but they did not meet the requirements for human trafficking. In the minimum
So what
guidelines,
does this
there's a
mean
section 1.
Yeah, I know. I understand the sections. I'm just trying to understand what this means for a district that wants to use this. That means they'd have to use 2 separate things?
That's correct.
So this is for elementary students. So they may train students or have a training for students on child sexual abuse and or human trafficking. That is up to the LEA to decide. That's not mandated by.
So the 2 numbers would say, sorry, I'm still trying to, I know that, I'm trying to understand how they will either differentiate or use it, right?
So
and where it's a may, I'm wondering if.
So essentially, it puts them on a list that the LEAs can choose from, and they'll know this curriculum meets the guidelines for child sexual abuse, but it would not meet the guidelines for human trafficking. So essentially, they would only be providing the material to students for child sex abuse prevention.
Okay.
Point of clarification.
Yes.
I'm sorry, which curriculum are we talking about?
It's the 20535. It's the Aiden's Discovery.
No, Aiden's Discovery passed for both child sexual abuse.
Which one am I'm missing something then.
It's 20537.
Okay.
Chase Steps
Okay, no
Up
wonder
for
I'm
4th and 5th
confused.
grade.
I'm like, I don't understand how this works. Both of it. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry. Put me back. Tell me the number one more time so I know I'm
20537. Go
up.
down, I think. Oh, it's one of those big groups. They're in order.
So this, essentially, we did not address this. It was, only the sixth
Oh.
grade was addressed. We did not address the fourth and fifth grade. And we're saying it should have been, there should have been a motion on this one just for child sex abuse.
Okay, I misunderstood completely. I'm so sorry. We were both talking two different things and did not. 537.
You have to log into Play It Safe to look at it.
Okay, I'll just, is everybody else following okay? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just make sure you have clarification on that. My apologies, I did not. I'm still not sure where it's at, but are you good online?
I'm just logging in now to the Play It Safe thing again
Okay.
with the prompt.
I do have a question
Just
on
get
this one.
clarification.
Okay, go ahead with your question, Board.
Well,
Vice
so
Chair
53G-9-207 talks about things cannot be sexually explicit, and maybe it wasn't, but I was uncomfortable with the discussion where the boy tells his uncle, you put your hand down my pants. Like, to me, that was an kind of uncomfortable place to be in our classrooms, because this is child-facing. So I
Fourth and
just-
sixth.
Yeah, did others
That-
feel that, or?
I didn't, this is one
Yeah.
I probably will not vote for until it comes to the board, because this is one somehow I missed, so I can't even speak to it, so, sorry. I
It
missed
was,
this one.
it was well done, but it was, I'm just like, okay, if I was sitting there with my child and watching it and having a great discussion with them, it was very well done, but I'm thinking, it made me
Because of
uncomfortable.
the large group, that
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, does someone want to make that motion? Okay,
Material, I move that the material ID 20537, Chase Steps Up, be approved by the Committee for Child Sex Abuse grades 4 and 5 and forwarded to the board for final approval.
okay, the motion before the committee is that the material ID 20537, Chase Steps Up, be approved by the Committee for Child Sex Abuse grades 4 through 5 and forwarded to the board for final approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
No,
One in favor. All those opposed? No. So 4 in opposition to that. And once again, I think that could be, I haven't fully viewed that one, so I think I'd like to view that before we do it. Yes.
That will, if it doesn't pass the committee, essentially what we would do is just inform them that it was not approved and
Yep.
they would have to resubmit
Okay.
in the next cycle.
Okay. Okay. All right, we have to go back up where there was a clarification on, seems like we needed to pull one back up if there was additional. Board Member Britton, were you able to get in yet or not yet? 20135.
no. No, these are, I'm sorry, this is really a hard document to navigate with the different numbers versus the names not matching and finding which one is where. Like, it doesn't show Supriya on the reviewer document. So you click on it and get in. So
It's a
I had it-
Dropbox link, right? Yep.
yep.
My recommendation would be, this is my recommendation, is that and I don't, let me see if I've got it in front of me. Hold on one second. Let me look at my notes because I have.
I did go through Supriya earlier, and on my notes, I said mostly good. I would like to access the folder to see the video. I think I mainly was able to go through the transcript.
I don't know.
The video portion?
No, no.
That's what she was just saying, the folder that has the video in it.
Oh, that's just what I had in my notes, but I do remember that it was a bunch of slides,
Yeah, you have to.
right, explaining.
I don't know how to use these computers. Mhm.
Okay, let me get my glasses. I mean, I'm reading it, but. Mhm. Yeah, and
So member
yeah,
Brinton,
this is the scenario, but once again, it's, so 13-year-old Sky has always had trouble reading social cues. She much prefers to connect with others online where she doesn't have to face the anxiety of everyone laughing at her when she says something weird or wrong. Also, it seems like there aren't any other queer teens in Sky's small town, so she spends lots of time on social media to find others who are more like her, using apps, chat groups. I guess my question here is this, are we, once again, is this about the sending of you go on in it, well, I guess I could read the whole thing. My concern is the narrow focus. This could have any students that are going on to online versus we're narrowing the scope down to queer students. We're narrowing the scope down to, anyways, and then just that she's not accepted, so therefore she goes online. Just I don't know if this is, whereas the bottom part, Liz asked Sky to send her photo. I mean, there's pieces here that could work. I just think there's pieces here that don't work.
Their
So-
intention, it seems like, is this is a student who feels different than other students and therefore finds that the only place that they can be themselves, whatever that is, they have red hair or whatever, and so they go online, and the idea is that students that don't feel comfortable socially are finding themselves more so online to feel safe in themselves, and then that sets them up to additional risks and concerns. So is it like the identifying factors of Sky, or is it that they're online? I don't know. I think
Well,
they
that's
were
just it.
probably-
That's the question. Is we've now narrowed it down to one group of students instead of keeping it broad.
But I mean, so you're saying that like removing identifying factors as to why that student doesn't feel comfortable as themselves and tends to lean towards their online persona more would make you feel more comfortable about that?
Yeah, I would recommend that it were broader. That for whatever reason the student's going online, and it could be a number of reasons. But
and I would agree. I mean, you can go to any type of Facebook group for any reason. Like you're going there because you're seeking out validation or understanding. So,
And I think it is such a universal thing. Most teenagers don't, have certain groups that they fit in with, or I think it's pretty common for them to feel alone and like they don't fit in and struggle with knowing who they are and where, I think it's a broad teenage problem, maybe a human problem.
is that clarify enough?
It is, and this, just to be clear, this is a scenario, one scenario of many scenarios. So the option would be to take out that specific scenario.
No, it just is to make it so it's broad usage.
Okay.
Like for example, even with there's later on there's a scenario with a student with some kind of a disability, right? And that's left broad. That's what the comment is. So
there,
yeah.
just that some of the other scenarios have very specific information as well. Is it just that scenario that's the problem, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
To bring it back? Oh, we would have to make the motion to bring it back. Yeah. Is there a motion to? Thank you, Michelle. I thought you meant back to committee. I'm like, oh, next month. Yep. Would have to make a motion for this to be reconsidered. Is there someone that wants to make that motion?
Yeah.
move that the committee reconsider material ID 20135.
That's the right one, right? I just want to make sure. Okay. So the motion before the committee is that we reconsider material 20135. Those in favor? Aye.
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 Those opposed?
No.
Okay, that passes 4 with Board Member Real in opposition. Okay, so the reconsideration would say yeah, it need to be changed to Board Member, you can put my name on it, Board Member Earl, move that the material ID 20135, awareness and prevention of sexual abuse training, pending the language on slide 30 be broadened, be approved by the committee and forwarded to the board for final approval. Okay. Yes,
Point of
go ahead.
information.
Point of
Do you want to add slide 40 and delete slide 40 also in your
Yeah,
motion?
that should have been in there. Sorry, was that?
I'm sorry, it's slide 39.
Yes. Yes, because that was the one that had the old language, right? And deleting slide 39. Slide 40. Yep. Yes. Okay.
It's slide 39, not slide 30.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Let me read that one more time. So the motion would be that material ID 20135, awareness and prevention of sexual abuse training, pending that the language on slide 39 be broadened and delete slide 40, be approved by the committee and forwarded to the board for final approval. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Did we miss anything else? Okay. Okay. We will be moving to our next item. Oh, let's see how quick we go. Oh, final motion? Do we need a final motion on these or all? Yeah. Okay, and we will go to we're going to have to try to be as quick as we can. I do have a couple of suggestions, but we'll see what we can do here. Go ahead if you want to present
me
them.
to do the quick overview?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
If I can share my screen. Did it not work? Okay. And we're just going to do a quick overview of the purpose of this item, and I'll turn it over to Mindy, the specialist.
Hello again, Mindy Elliott, Prevention Specialist in Child Sexual Abuse and Human Trafficking Prevention. We are now voting to go through the minimum guidelines. Those are the guiding documents that help organizations align their work to the required criteria. So Utah Code 53G-9-207, this slide references okay. So the reviewers review the materials for compliance with the minimum guidelines. I'm not going to read this whole slide just because we just went through this process. The Child Sexual Abuse and Human Trafficking Prevention Minimum Guidelines, they're created from Board Rule 277-630 as a rubric for organizations intending to submit materials for approval for use in Utah schools. The minimum guidelines were previously approved by the board in November of 2024. And there is a minimum guideline document for elementary student instructional materials, adult serving youth instructional materials, and parent guardian instructional materials. Each minimum guideline document includes 3 sections. The first section includes required concepts for both child sexual abuse and human trafficking prevention materials. The second section only relates to child sexual abuse prevention. And the third section is the required concepts related to human trafficking prevention only. The minimum guidelines now need to be updated and revised and approved to include the new requirements from House Bill 40,
These updates include the following requirements. Age-appropriate instructional materials must now include the risk of sharing intimate images or personal information through electronic means. That is for elementary student-facing materials. The adult serving youth and parent guardian materials now need to include the definition of sexual extortion. And the appropriate responses to incidents of sexual extortion, including connecting victims with support services, needs to be included in the adult serving youth materials. And resources available for victims of sexual extortion need to be included with the adult serving youth and parent guardian materials.
Can I just ask a question on that? I've reached out to Representative Wilcox on the sextortion piece because there's some, and I guess what he said to me, I said, is that really what we want to be doing in the younger grades? Do they even understand that? And he said, well, do it in an age-appropriate way, right? So we just want to be careful. And I know you've hit that there. I just,
For clarification, the definition of sexual extortion and the appropriate responses are only for adult serving youth and parents and guardians. The way they phrased it in the bill for student is that first bullet right there. Age appropriate instructional materials now must include risks of sharing intimate images and personal information through electronic means. So that's how they phrased it in the bill.
okay, which still could be, right? I mean, I guess it's just how that's just making sure it is age appropriate. And I think some of these did a really great job of not getting in the weeds. Others when I say getting in the weeds, but things that may be inappropriate in a larger class setting. Whereas, so anyways, I guess I'm just throwing that out there, so.
And we hope that our recommended minimum guideline changes incorporate your concerns as well as this language.
Thank you. Okay, sorry, continue. Is that it? Okay, so we're going to start with the first one. Unless are there any broad questions that people have? Can someone tell me, can we go over on time or not? we're like 10 minutes too. I just need to know, can we go over by 10 minutes, 15, or are we pretty set on? Is it almost one though? It's one. What? Okay, well, in technology, are we good? Staff, are we good? Technology's good. Okay, so let me check with the committee members. We may go over on time. Can someone, or just let me know if we've still, is that going to be a problem, I guess is what I'm asking. Are we going to lose people right at 1? Okay, anybody online that has some problems if we go over a little bit, make sure we get these things done?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Emily, are you good too?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep moving forward then. We'll try to be courteous of time. I think this has been a good discussion, but I have a couple of questions and recommendations, and I want to see if we can make sure anybody else questions that they have. Okay, so we're going to start with the youth minimum guidelines. So we'll go under that. And are there any recommendations or questions that any of the committee members have? I have one, and it's where it says, I noticed a lot of the curriculum materials talk about, where it talks about touching private areas, if we can find that. And I don't, thank you for, yes, the first one. Thank you for labeling these, by the way, or numbering them so that we can easily get to the page. Let me find the page. I didn't write my page down though. So let's see, make sure. I can't get it to pull up. What do you have it on? Page 4, maybe? Well, the language I had was touching private areas. If someone can search that, I'm having trouble searching that, where that shows up.
Page 4?
Page 4, maybe.
On page 4, under examples, it says giving a high five, respecting physical boundaries, not touching private areas unless medically necessary.
Yes.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yes. And I just wondered, some of the new curriculum, we can just discuss if this is a good idea to not touch private areas, including mouth. Some of them have including mouth. I don't see that on this one. So that,
Sorry, are you suggesting?
I'm
to add
suggesting
that?
adding it, yeah.
Okay.
Tell me what you think.
Well, again, we'll do whatever you suggest. I
But
just
you're-
want to point out, these are minimum guidelines, and so the
Yeah.
materials can go beyond that. So if they want to include mouth in their own materials, they
Right,
can do
I
that.
just wondered if that should be a minimum requirement. I'm throwing it out for the committee.
It's up to you.
Yeah. Is there no comment on that? Board Member Green or Board Member Brinton, any thoughts on that?
I'm just reading real quick. Just
Would this also go
can I
under?
ask where this was triggered from, maybe?
I
With
think,
your research?
yeah, I think, and it doesn't, we don't necessarily need to add it. I saw it in a few areas, and only because while it may not be an area that's covered by the swimming suit, so to speak, that it could be an area that someone may exploit, if that makes sense.
Could I
But
make a
maybe not, yeah.
suggestion?
Yeah.
Could I understand where you're coming from. Maybe like the inside of the mouth. I can think of quite a few examples of maybe where somebody might touch the outside of a mouth.
Yeah, so maybe it may be further than, I don't know, okay. Okay, all right, let's just leave that where it's at then. Okay, it was worth the discussion, there you go. Okay, and then on page 15, I would ask that we remove unwelcome. So if you go down to page 15, my motion would be to remove the word unwelcome. And it's at the bottom, it says, being safe in various situations, children should learn rules that keep them safe from people, places, and situations that make them feel unwelcome, scared, uncomfortable, or confused. Remind children that they have the right to say no in any situation that makes them feel unsafe, and they should tell a trusted adult, for example, parent, guardian, relative, teacher, and clergy. And then down at the bottom again, children should learn skills to get them out of situations as fast as possible when the person, place, or situation makes them feel unwelcome, scared, uncomfortable, or confused. I don't understand why we have unwelcome there.
I also agree with you. I can see how that feels like almost contrary, like then the student is actually in a place where they shouldn't be, but I don't know if there's like an intention behind that. You're not sure. You don't know. Okay.
I believe that was a carryover from the
Okay.
previous
Well, then I'm
version.
fine with that.
Okay, so that would be my motion on these ones, or an amendment to them? Yes. Yep. Okay. Any other discussion of that? Okay, so the motion would be, or the amendment to the document for the youth minor guideline, minimum guidelines document, that the word unwelcome be removed from page 15, yeah.
Section 8.
Or section 8.
Page 15, section 8, to be more clear about it.
Yeah, page 15, section 8, that would be good. It's actually section 2, number 8. Yep, number 8.
Could I
Yes, go
just
ahead.
ask a question? Also, there was something on let's see, it's on page 11 or page 11. In number 7, where it says abusers can be anyone, but then it says it can also be an older child living in the home or neighborhood, or a child of the same age. It could be any child. I just wonder if we should remove just another, have, instead of older, say another child living in the home, because it actually could be a younger child that was abused or got exposed to something and then decided to share. And I think maybe the title says it enough to say they can be anyone, so I just wondered about that.
Okay. Any thoughts on that?
could we come maybe back to that, and if it needs to be another,
Yeah, let's do it a separate
motion, we
motion.
could-
So
we
we'll
could
just
do that.
amend, we'll do the first,
Sorry, yeah, that,
yeah, we'll do the
Yeah.
first amendment and then come to that one if that's okay, Board Member Brinton.
And then just a minor detail, put a D on the unwelcomed, just needs a D.
Oh, I'm welcomed. Yep. Okay. Yep. We can do that. Okay. So the motion before the committee is to amend on page 15, section 8. I think it's section 3, bullet point 8. Bullet point 8. Yeah. Yes, but it's all in that same section. Of the youth minimum guidelines document, the word unwelcome to be removed. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. No.
Okay.
And board member, I
And
can
bo-
speak to the other issue.
Okay, just a second. Let me read this out. So 4 in favor, 1 opposed. Okay, and let's go up to, back to page, what was the page again?
page 11, number
Page
7.
11. All right, do you want to speak to that before a motion's
Yeah.
made?
I just want to clarify that the items that are bolded, those are the elements that are required to be in the materials. The rest of the text there is just giving further explanation for the organizations that are writing this material, so they understand why we're saying that those concepts need to be integrated. So we're not saying you have to use that exact language. We're just saying, giving those things as examples. I also want to just add that DCFS was involved in the writing of these minimum guidelines. And the reason that they suggested that the older child be in there is generally if they're doing an investigation and it's a younger child would not be investigated for perpetrating on an older child typically,
You're
unless
saying
it's a
that's usually
developmental.
what they found is it's an older child
Okay.
to a younger child. Okay.
Yes.
Board
That
member,
makes sense. I can withdraw that, but thank you for the
Okay.
clarification.
Thank you. Are there any additional items on this particular one? Okay, I'm seeking a motion for the minimum guidelines for this item.
I can do it. As amended. I would like to make a motion that the committee approve the updated minimum guidelines for instructional materials for child sexual abuse and human trafficking prevention as amended and forward to the full board for final approval.
Okay, the motion before the committee is that the committee approve the updated minimum guidelines for instructional materials for child sex abuse and human trafficking prevention as amended and forward to the full board for final approval. All those in,
Is this elementary students only? Do you have changes?
Just the first one.
So this does not say that it's just the elementary
Oh.
students.
yeah, it should only be the
It
one.
should be the youth minimum guidelines. right?
Yes.
It says elementary at the top.
Yeah, it's elementary student instructional materials.
Okay, so it should say elementary student instructional materials.
Youth, PG, and ASY. I'll reword it. I'll re-say it. The committee approved the updated minimum guidelines for elementary student instructional materials for child sexual abuse and human trafficking prevention as amended and forward to the full board for final approval.
Okay. So the motion before the committee is that the committee approve the updated minimum guidelines for elementary student instructional materials for child sex abuse and human trafficking prevention as amended and forward to the full board for final approval. All those in favor? Aye.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. We'll go to our second document here, which is our parent guardian, right? Is that what I have on that one? It's just taking a minute to upload for some reason. Okay. Just make sure I'm correct on that. So this is the minimum guidelines for the parents and guardians, right? Okay, I had a couple questions. Oh, why did I not write the page number down on these? Sorry. I just want to make sure this, and maybe, I don't know if we have our, just because the law changed this year, if it's, Let me read out what I have and then we can find the location. It says lack of information about sex or sexuality. Is that the language we want to be using? Or is it lack of information about sexuality? That's what sorry, I didn't write it down. I think it's something about putting people at risk or something like that. Students at risk, if I remember right. Or parents. Okay, so it's on page 7 and section 7, or piece number 17. Says certain traits or behaviors of a child or youth can put them at higher risk of sexual abuse. So lack of information about sex and sexuality. I'm just wondering if sexuality is what they have lack of information about.
Yeah, I had a question about that too.
Is sexuality different than sex? Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, can I comment to that?
Yeah.
So I recently had a neighbor talk to me about sharing information with her children, and she had taught them she didn't want to use the appropriate terms. She wanted to be very guarded in how she spoke to them. And so she always said, you need to make sure you're safe. You need to make sure you're safe. You need to make sure no one sees your swimming suit part. You need to make sure you're safe. Well, so doing a cartwheel and her shirt showing, she stood up and she's like, I'm not safe. Come to find out the child was being sexually abused because she didn't understand what to be safe meant. So this lack of information, so I agree, I don't love the word sexuality, but what is it that we're trying to teach them? How can we word that they get the right terms, that they have those discussions?
I think they have that in here. It's up further. They did talk about using correct terms, so that's why, yeah.
So you'll have to forgive me. I just started at USP in December.
Yeah.
I was not a part of when these were originally created. So, but as I'm interpreting it, as I'm reading it, what I think that they're alluding to is that they have access to somewhere, like a safe person where they can get information about sex and sexuality.
Now,
and
why
I
did
feel like
we
it could be
differentiate
worded
those?
different.
Do you see what I'm saying? Why did we differentiate those? Is it human sex or is it sexuality? Why is there a difference there? And what is the difference? And you may not know. I'm not trying to call you out. Do you see what I'm saying?
I can speak to what I think.
Okay.
Like sex is how you identify how, like, sexuality is, and like the actual act of sex, right? And sexuality is like maturing and turning and coming into your sexuality, meaning like you're wondering about dating and you're wondering about boys and you're wondering about your sexuality and how you go about the sex. Does that make sense?
Okay.
I don't think I explained that very well, but that's my own interpretation. Take it for what it's worth. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well,
And
can
I
I
know we're
just
kind of
give you-
catching you on the spot. So,
I want to
Joan?
clarify definitions. When we look at, like, the definition of sex refers to the biological and physical characteristics that define us as male and female, whereas sexuality refers to a person's sexual orientation, desires, behaviors, and identity, how someone experiences and expresses themselves as a sexual being. So I'm not sure that is something that's completely up to parents when it comes to the sexuality and how they're going to discuss that with their own children. But the sex part is the biology part that we need to be really focusing on.
But wouldn't we be,
I think.
I mean, we're not teaching students about gender in this, right? We're talking about sex and sexuality. Sexuality has been something that is a word that people have defined in certain ways, but just as you read that definition, it's like their sexuality of their type, the people, the way that their behaviors within sex. And sexuality is like the behavior piece of it. Sex is the gender part, but there are two pieces, and they both have different definitions, but within the same scope of saying, the act of having sex, and then your sexuality could be what you prefer as well, but not necessarily meaning you prefer girls or boys, but a lot of things go into sexuality beyond that.
So I would.
Yeah, I mean, the sexuality is more like, in definition, it says psychological, emotional, and social, and it develops over time and can be fluid. Does
So I'm
that
wondering if
pertain
the-
to
So
it?
if you
Yeah.
believe in marriage, you don't believe in marriage, you believe in having multiple partners, you want to not have sex before marriage, you want to have sex before, it's like all of those go into sexuality.
And this is our parent guidelines, right?
Yeah.
Because it says a lack of knowledge about sexuality can be a significant risk factor for engaging in risky sexual behaviors, potentially leading to unintended pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections, other negative consequences. So we always talk about our parents need to be the primary teachers. So letting them know that if they're not talking about, somebody's going to be talking about these things with students. Is it going to be the parents?
And that's true.
Or is it going to be someone else? And this is in the parent guide saying, look, if you don't tell them about it, somebody else is going to.
I would actually, but I'm actually going to go a little, I think my motion would be to remove sexuality and put in it healthy human relationships, because it encompasses those pieces that the parents want to, and that's where the information's going, right, to parents, right? And we're wanting them to have that discussion about healthy human relationships. What are the relationships? That's not something we want to be shifting to the schools. So that would be my motion, is to strike sexuality and put healthy human relationships.
I don't think that covers everything that sexuality covers. I don't think that covers everything that sexuality covers. Sexuality is not a scary gay word or whatever people are terming it as. It's talking about all of those pieces, about like just exactly what Member Wood was talking about. And I think that we're actually, considering this as a parent document, I think doing that is doing a disservice
Yeah,
to
it
our
also
students
includes-
learning, to our students learning from their parents about all of those pieces of sexuality, which I think is important. So I'd speak against this motion.
Okay, Board Member Brinton, did you have or Vice Chair Brinton?
Yeah, I mean, it does, like, it encompasses romantic attraction, like, either way, you know, I mean, healthy behaviors and all around, I guess. I'm not exactly sure how to, yeah.
Okay, any other comments? Go ahead, Leanne.
Could we maintain sexuality, put sex, sexuality, and healthy human relationships? So there's a basis for your discussion about sexuality.
I guess if you wanted to make an amendment to it.
I'm just wondering
I
your opinion.
would
of it
rather
is.
go into if you're talking about sex and then human relationship, just in general, that's the dating, that's the, other aspects.
Or age,
So,
what about age appropriate relationships, you know?
I think that that's been stripped down into a lot of chaos in this realm, so I would avoid that one probably.
Okay.
But I do like healthy human relationships.
okay. Any other? No. Any other comments? If someone wanted to make a amendment, they could. So my motion would be, or to amend it, would be to amend page 7, number 17 of the parent guardian minimum guidelines document to remove the word sexuality and replace with the words healthy human relationships. Okay, all those in favor? Yes? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
So that passes with 3, 2 noes, which is Board Member, or Vice Chair Wood, and Board Member Green, Earl Lear, right? We got all 3 in there. Okay, that's all I had on that one. Is there anyone else that had comments on this one? Joanne, did you want some additional clarification on a piece? I'm just remembering.
Oh, I was not seeing anything specifically about regression with toilet training or something. And I know just from having taught some prevention classes before through PE, this Rad Kids program that was really good. Like, I just know that that's a big red flag for sexual abuse, is when if they start wetting the bed or having accidents Is that covered enough? There was a general term that that was like delays, I think, developmental delays, but what about regression if they go backwards?
Do you have any experience in that area that we want to, I think that is a common
Yes.
risk factor, right? Or
Yes, that's correct. It is a common risk.
is there somewhere we would, that I think it's okay to, is it good to spell that out more, or where would that sit?
That's what we're.
Okay. Joanne, did you have a specific page?
Maybe in the risk factors, like in number 17, like
Okay.
I'm looking, it says like have a developmental delay, but what about a developmental regression? Could we add that in?
It's a
Toilet
sign.
training, you know, as
A
a
sign.
Not a
sign.
risk factor.
Okay,
it's
it's a
sign
sign.
of abuse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's
that
go
would
back
be a
up.
sign.
Yeah. We're looking, so give us just 1 second.
Yeah, me too. I'm scrolling to see where that could go. I mean, is that a red flag for, no, it would be a red flag of child behavior that I would look at and go, oh, if this is happening, what's going on? Like a night terror, too. And some parents maybe just wouldn't be aware, you know, they might, that is a flag.
So section 2, we're thinking,
Section 2, number 10, it's page 15.
okay. Oh, I didn't go down far enough. I know. I'm like, I know there's a spot here. Okay. Oh, yeah, signs of abuse. So it could, like the sleeping disorders, it could sit right underneath that maybe, right?
It does say older youth
Oh, well, it
reverting
does
back to
say-
younger behaviors.
Younger behaviors.
Could we put including bedwetting or something like that? Does that, for example, maybe?
Including accidents, like having, I mean, I think it should be maybe spelled out for parents who wouldn't.
There is a section
aware.
for examples underneath, so you could put it
Okay.
there.
Oh,
'cause
okay. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, let's do
what would
that.
the wording, what is the wording you'd like? Or do you have a suggestion, Mindy?
Toilet regression or accidents, bedwetting, but also accidents, like students who have it's not just wetting the bed, it's accidents with both. How do you say that in a nice language way?
Accidents are wetting the bed inappropriate with age development.
Okay, okay. So we'll say that again. Accidents or, say that one more time.
Toileting accidents or bedwetting inappropriate for developmental. What did I say?
Developmental
Appropriate.
aid.
Or is
Yeah.
it regression? I mean, because often it's a child who's already been potty trained that all of a sudden, that's when it's, oh my goodness, you know.
So you're saying you'd prefer the word regression in there?
Yeah, just to earmark that they've gone backwards, you know,
Okay,
that they
so-
were potty.
Here's the words we have. Tell us if this works. We have regression to toileting, accidents, bedwetting, inappropriate for the age. Does that, it's a little clunky.
We need to say that.
Regression of toilet training.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's probably good.
A second, we'll read it out for you again. Okay, so regression of toilet training kind of encompasses both those
Yeah, that
components.
encompasses all of it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other discussion to this item? All right, so the amendment is, Member Britton is amending on page 15, section number 10 of the Parent Guardian Minimum Guidelines document to add regression of toilet training in the examples. All the, it's section 2, I believe. Section 2, number 10, yeah. Yeah, thanks for that clarification. So it's page 15, section 2, number 10 of the parent guardian minimum guidelines document to add regression of toilet training in the examples. All those in favor? Aye.
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 That was unanimous. Any other discussion there?
and-
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just would like to see this also taught to the two educators as well. And
And that's the next piece, right? So we might have to transfer that over.
Or you could say of the parent, guardian, and adult serving youth minimum guidelines. I think they're very
Okay.
numbered similarly.
Okay, so is it okay if we add that in? We'll take another vote. Michelle, tell me if we're okay. Okay. We're going to make a change here on this one so we can keep moving along. So we've added in the adult serving youth with the same motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, Board Member Britton, you're probably an aye, I'm guessing.
aye, yeah.
Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, any other comments on that one? If not, I'm seeking a motion. Okay,
I actually have just a clerical thing.
okay,
It's on page 13. On number 2, the materials cover in any age appropriate way that any sexual towards a child. I'm just wondering if we could clarify or fix that word. Because it doesn't make sense that any sexual towards a child is not safe for sexual conduct or sexual,
what would be good to have there?
like,
Sexual behavior?
Act? Okay, so I guess we can make a motion. I don't know that we need to if it's just clarifying, but we can make a motion on that. Act?
yeah, just like, it's probably just a clerical thing.
Yeah, just missed the word somewhere there. If we could put act in there, okay. We're going to go ahead and just take a vote on it, just so it's clean. So we're going to add act.
Okay.
I don't know where
It
we're
does
at
have
though.
sexual act on the last sentence of that same number. So the material should focus on the appropriate behavior of the sexual act and not the feelings generated in the child. So that any sexual act towards a child probably makes it make more sense.
Yeah, section 2, number 2.
Okay, so just a quick motion here, just to clarify here. So Board Member Green made an amendment that says to add the word, it's hiding it as she's typing, to add the word act after sexual on page 13, number 2 of section 2 in the parent guardian minimum guidelines document. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. 4 in favor. Okay, I think I'm looking for a motion on this document then, unless there's additional items. Okay, does someone want to do that? Leanne, would you like to do that?
Yep, okay. I move that the committee approve the updated minimum guidelines for parent guardian instructional materials for child sexual abuse and human trafficking amendment or prevention as amended and forward to the full board for final approval.
Okay. The motion before the committee is that the committee approve the updated minimum guidelines for parent guardian instructional materials for child sexual abuse and human trafficking prevention as amended, forward to the full board for final approval. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Board Member Green and Board Member Brinton.
Oh, sorry, you didn't hear me. Aye.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That passes unanimously. Let's go to the last document in this piece. Hopefully we can go to the others real quick. So this is the adult serving youth minimum requirements. Are there any questions or recommendations on this one? I didn't have any additional. Board Member Green or Board Member Brinton, do you have anything? Okay, I'm
I
looking.
don't this time.
No.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion then for this document. Someone want to make that, or do you want me to just do it?
I can make it. Make a motion that the committee approve the updated minimum guidelines for adult serving youth instructional materials for child sexual abuse and human trafficking prevention as amended and forward. There were no amendments, but there were two. As amended and forwarded to the full board for final approval.
Okay, so the motion before the committee is that the committee approve the updated minimum guidelines for adult serving youth instructional materials for child sexual abuse and human trafficking prevention as amended and forward to the full board for final approval. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, and we will move on to the next item. Thank you. That was a big lift for a few months for everyone. So, and we appreciate all your work. So if you have additional questions, if we could help streamline that more, we'd love to do that. So, okay, thank you. All right, Elise Newey, who's presenting this? Oh, she's online. All right, thank you. Go ahead. I haven't seen it yet.
Hi, thank you so much, Chair Earl. So good to be with you. Sorry I'm not there in person. I will try and go quick. So R277705 is our secondary school completion and diplomas amendment or diplomas rule, and we are proposing several amendments to this rule to be in compliance with HB 191, which you guys all know, change some of the requirements for the use of packets throughout schools. So I'm going to share my screen. If that's okay, Andrea.
Okay.
Does that work?
Can you not share Alex online? Can you make her a presenter? Oh, they're working on it. Sorry. Hang on.
So if you're listening online, we're taking just a...
And now, Elise, we can't hear you either, so hang on.
We've
Now,
got
now
some
it's worse.
That's a me problem. I
there we
fixed that.
go. Now we
Oh, we
can
got
hear.
it.
We can
Okay.
at least hear you if you want to start explaining.
Okay. So one of the changes that I wanted to highlight first for you was that we gave it an oversight category. We gave it an oversight category of a 3 because much of this rule deals with what the LEA standards are for their different diplomas and how they graduate students and the kinds of policies that they develop. A lot of their responsibility is on an LEA.
Elise, will you try to share again?
Yeah.
Okay, you're good. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So I was just saying with the oversight category, these are the things that we look at. We look at the resources, monitoring, what happens if rule, is not followed. And really a lot of this is at the LEA level and is in code to be at the LEA level. So we wanted to make sure that that reflected that. So it's not a 4. However, there is, and you will see this in the changes we're proposing today, there is significant oversight by LE or from the USBE when it comes to the use of packets and how that process goes. So I'll go back. So category 3, we updated the definitions to align with the definitions that were in HB 191. So all of those are very, very similar. The main bulk of the changes that you'll see start on line 137 and goes through the process of how an LEA can award credit by using a packet and what can be included, what cannot be included, when it becomes demonstrated competence as opposed to a packet, and then requiring the LEAs keep track of all of the packets that are used, and then also requiring that us as USBE will report to the Education Interim Committee how many times packets have been used. My little Zoom thing got in the way, and now I can't switch screens. I just wanted to really quickly, you can see this. outline, because there were several different specific requirements, I wanted to make sure that we hit all of those and that you feel like we hit all of those. So the first is to establish standards for when an LEA can award original credit versus replacement credit. We also were required to include alignment with standards and then to also maintain that comprehensive list. So I just wanted to point you to where these things are in the rule, just so that we can go quickly. So the standards for when and they can use the credit, we put those in lines 137 essentially through 155. That an LEA, when they can award original credit. However, on line 149, an LEA cannot use the packet method to improve a previous grade. And then on line 152, here are the ways that a student can get a grade replacement. So we feel like that's pretty clear. When it comes to alignment with the standards, we have both the code and our rule refers back to the state instructional materials process and then the LEA instructional materials process, which are outlined pretty clearly in law, and as well as in our policy documents and those things that go with that process. So we feel like having referred to that code as well as our process makes it really aligned with standards. And then finally, our comprehensive list, we refer back again to this instructional materials process, which would then put all of those materials onto the RIMS system and allow for searching either by legislators or by LEAs. So, long way to say, those are all of the things that we changed. I did email all of you. We just had a couple of changes that I wanted to propose today, and those motions are on the motion document. The first is just that we use some language from the code that refers to ourselves, and I didn't want that in there because that would be a problem for OAR, as well as it just doesn't read very clearly. So we took out the part that refers to ourselves. And then also in line 137, it says that an LEA may award a grade for original credit or replacement credit. However, up in the code, in the definitions, it says that you can't give a grade for replacement credit, right? So it was really confusing. So we wanted to make it clear that an LEA is actually awarding original credit through the packet method. So those are the two changes we're proposing today, but happy to take questions.
Okay, I did reach out to Representative Tusher and just trying to make sure clarification, and I think we're getting standards and standards mixed up. I think we do have to adhere to standards, but then the standards themselves that I think it's asking us to put into place are criteria, maybe that's another way of saying it, for packets, and not necessarily the alignment with the core standards, right? So I think there's two uses of the word standard in there. I would recommend, I'm just sending a possibility in an email right now, but I just think that when let me pull it up. And I think you've struck some of it, so I'm not sure how that would work, but I do think on lines, so if everybody wanted to look online, oh shoot, where is it? I just slowed it down. It says USBE shall, where are we? Shall. What line is that? No, I'm looking. I think it's 158. It's our 156 where it's where you struck it out though, but our 155, the state board shall, and then it says establish standards for the use of the packet method to award original credit and replacement credit. And then it says include alignment with core standards. That's a piece of it. So I think, to me, I think we've got to put some criteria in. I have a couple of suggestions, and then we can decide whether that works or not. Let me just share the suggestions. I would actually recommend that in addition to establishing standards that align with the core standards, that we put something in there about there's adequate practice or application to demonstrate mastery, that there's something maybe about adequate depth and breadth of the core standards, and then that the methods for accountability, that doesn't really, it's not in alignment with the language. Have Board Member Bogus going, wait, that doesn't work in your alignment thing, but something about methods for accountability beyond assessment that could be portfolio, it could be something, but I think they're looking for something more than, and that's why even in the law, it says you can't just use assessments. You have to have assignments be part of it too, so that a student can't just pick up a packet one day, go take a 50 question quiz and get 45 and say, oh, I did the work for the course. Does that make sense? So I'm trying to figure out what balance that needs to be. I'm
Can
open to some feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at 149, like lines 149 through 151, where it says an LEA may not use the packet method or classify a packet as original credit to improve a previous course or grade. And I thought the intent of this rule was that so packets could not be used to replace grades.
That is true. Right?
So, but then down below, it's like establishing that the state board is supposed to determine standards and qualifications so that a packet could be used for that. But then up here, it's saying they can't. They need to redo the course and enroll in a comparable course if they want to replace their grade.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, it
Lise?
just seems
Yeah.
confusing, like.
It's super confusing, if I may, Chair. So that's why we suggested removing some of the language in this motion so that it is clear, because there are two different spots in the code where it refers to the replacement credit, and they're contradictory. That's something I think we're going to need to speak with the sponsor next year to get that cleared up. So to make sure that it's clear in our rule, we propose that we change that language to an LEA may award original credit through the packet method. And then the only conversation about the replacement credit would be exactly what you just read. They may not use it. However, a high school student may repeat the course or enroll in a comparable course. Those are the only two ways that a student could replace their grade.
But they could use the packet method for original credit.
Right, if they have not taken the course yet.
Yes.
At all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, and did that make sense, Vice Chair Brinton?
Yes, was Representative Tischer not meaning to, because packets generally are known to not be as rigorous or have the same course requirements as a class. And so I thought that the idea was that packets should be a pass-fail for alternative diplomas, but not be able to have a grade.
What does the law say? What does the law say on that? They can get original credit, so they can get original. If they have, okay, so they could get a grade. If they haven't taken the course before, they could get a grade. It's not just pass-fail. But if they haven't, yeah, all right, go
And
ahead.
the goal is that the packets will be reviewed so that they have rigor and are legitimate original credit.
And that's the part I'm speaking to, is that we have to establish the standard or a criteria for that, so it's not just, right? That's why I was speaking to that, so it's more rigorous, but what does that mean? And we've got to come up with some qualifiers for that.
I wonder,
So
on the qualifiers on your motion, if we add those requirements, what does that do to our process and like how we have things set up currently with approving these like within RIMS? Would that add like a big burden to add these identifiers as requirements?
Well,
Because I understand what you're saying, you want to add the specifics about the requirements, but I'm wondering if we all of a sudden add these requirements to these packets for each one, does that change the materials?
okay,
But
go ahead.
still.
Go ahead, Terry. If you want.
Terry Davis, Instructional Materials Specialist for the Utah State Board of Education. When we start taking on reviewing the packets, we're not sure how many packets will come in to be reviewed, but we're expecting quite a few with a variety of subject areas. So we've had Kristen Campbell working on the coding, that we can align coding in RIMS with that. The system, I believe, with few adjustments, we'll be able to handle packets, but then we will probably have to look at the review process, because currently we have, when we review instructional materials, we have a team of 3 professionals. So if we are wanting to go that direction, you're probably looking at 3 professionals looking at packets to grade them on a rubric. We will probably need to create a rubric to align, to determine rigor and to be able to score packets. So that part we would be working through that process. But the MIDA system, currently, we would have to make a few adjustments. I don't think that would cost a lot. The cost would be in manpower for doing the reviews and being able to manage the packets coming in.
So we haven't done any packets yet.
Not yet.
Okay, so it's not like we're going back and having to, do anything there. So adding something on there about rigor, about, I don't know, what's the items, that could be done, and we're having people read them anyways. They're going through all the materials. So whatever we have there, and I'm not sure what it needs to be, but I think there needs to be something there so it's not just, they covered the content, right?
Yeah, we would probably create a rubric that contains all of the items that we would like to see in a packet.
Okay. Does that help?
I mean, I get it. I do. I think this is like an alternative learning route for these students. Anything that we can do, considering this is another thing we have to create a rubric for and another thing we have to approve, less is more for me here. But I don't want to take away from the rigor of them getting these original credits. So I understand that. I just want to be cautious about how many things we include in that then adds another process and approval and staff power at creating the rubric and reviewing all of those at the same time. Like, there has to be a balance there between, let's not add a bunch of extra work for these, packets that come through, but let's also make sure that they're rigorous. And so I don't know if there's enough in the law that talk about the rigor based on them being original credit and what the course is or whatnot, or if there is a necessity for us to add all those additional indicators of rigor that we consider rigor.
I think less is why we had this here. And that a lot of these packets are less. Go ahead, Brenton. Board Member Brenton.
Yeah, I want to second what Sarah's saying, and maybe if we could talk to Representative Tusher in interim and get some clarification and an amendment to this so that packets could be in their own category of pass-fail for alternative methods that if students need them. But there are already lots of options for online concurrent enrollment, different things that students can do to redo classes if they need to. I don't know that packet, I think by nature, the packet is less rigorous. And so that creates a whole bunch of extra work to then go out and create a rubric and then go out and create different packets that will match the standards when there are already classes online or at the school to retake. So I think the intent maybe is to just remove packets from grades. Packets are pass-fail is how I'm seeing it.
Okay. I don't think that's the case right now, though. Is that right?
Right.
It's not the case in law.
That's not what it says right now, but was he intending for us to then go create a whole new section of standards and packets?
Well, it's not a section of standards. The standard referred to, from what I read it, is more of a criteria. If it's going to be a packet and you're going to get credit for it, it had better meet certain criteria.
But there are no packets that meet that criteria right now, right? The packets
I have no
by
idea.
nature are less rigorous. Okay.
Maybe I don't know, but there definitely is the concern that they are not as rigorous. So maybe some of them
They're
are, maybe some
definitely
are
not.
not.
At
Yeah.
All the packets that I've seen and the kids that talk about them and the parents who definitely, there's a place for them. Students with special needs, students that can't do the rigorous work. There needs to be an alternative route for pass fail and for alternative diplomas, but I think it's in a different category by nature unless a whole new packet is created.
Okay, any other comments? Okay.
I would just like to maybe ask a general question with the motion that's in front of us right now. What seems to be the core issue right now that we're trying to address with this motion? So I guess that's the maker of the motion.
And is that with mine or with the top one? Can you see both there?
I can see both. Yeah, I guess highlighted in purple right now is your motion.
Yes.
Member Chair Earl.
Yes.
If
So
you could just clarify.
Yeah,
like,
I'll clarify.
what this is addressing.
Without creating additional, and I say additional as in some kind of criteria, then to me the packets are just what they are right now. Does that make sense? And we don't really have, other than the criteria of does it meet the standards, it's not really, does it have adequate practice? Does it demonstrate, are they demonstrating mastery of concepts? It's just, the only thing we do have in law is that it has to relate to the core standards, and it can't be based on just assessment. It has to be based on assignments as well. But there's no, we don't have that spelled out, but it gives us the ability to do that if we choose to. So, Elise Nui, did you have a comment?
I did have one thought just on, well, actually I had two, one question and one thought. The first is the intent for this measurement of rigor or assuring that there's rigor also applying to the LEA process, or would this be specific to USBE, given that we've never reviewed packets before? That makes sense. LEAs have been reviewing packets in their various capacities for a while, so they already have kind of their system for doing that. So that's one question. My second thing is the way that I read the law, maybe Michelle can help me, is that in order to be counted as a packet method under the law, the grade or the credit has to be primarily based upon completion of the packet. That adding any additional assessment pieces would then open it up to no longer qualifying as a packet and then therefore not being part or beholden to this law. So maybe Michelle can help me with that one, but that's how I read it.
I read that a little different, but Michelle, what did you?
You'd have to point to where it is in the code for me.
So in the definition of packet method, so that's on line 181 of the code, part C.
I'm looking in the code and not the bill.
Or, sorry, the bill. Sorry.
So what's the bill number?
Because
Because I was looking in the code.
HB 191.
I can read it out while Michelle's looking it up, but it says packet method means an educational approach where a high school student receives a collection of instructional materials from an institution, organization, or LEA. The high school student works through the materials independently with minimal or no direct instruction from a teacher, and C, assessment is primarily based on completion of assignments within the instructional materials. So it's the completion of the assignments is where the assessment with the instructional materials. Does that work? Everybody's kind of moving back here. So what was your question again then specifically, Deputy Superintendent Nui?
Just that if we add any additional requirements for assessment or accountability to demonstrate mastery, that part, I worry that it moves it out of the packet method realm. Because for the reason I bring this up is because in conversations with LEA leaders and superintendents, they're like, well, what about, competency-based learning, right? Oftentimes that's with a portfolio or something. Does that apply to all of these rules? Do we have to go through that process?
I believe this can't already be competency-based. Am I right in saying that? I think in law it's...
There is a line that does say...
Let me look.
And I'm looking for it.
I also I think it might be impossible, considering it is a packet and not an actual course taught by an educator, to ensure the breadth and depth of the core standards. Right? Like, I think that will be hard to be able to do. I don't think you can mimic perfectly within a packet method the breadth and the depth of a standard of a course.
Agreed.
Can I make a comment too?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I am, from my understanding, is that these packets are formed from LEAs. Is that correct? LEAs do who forms those packets right now?
It's a variety of entities. An LEA they could contract with a private entity, or there could be, there's a couple of locations where you can go and get packets that LEAs use. Did I cover the gamut of it? So there's independent
Yes.
entities, and then they could do it themselves, or they can just hire someone else to do it. So.
Okay, so I think I do share the same concerns that it would add a completely different realm in the USBE to quality check all of this. So I'm a little bit hesitant on the motion. I think, and I might vote no, just because I feel like I would need to get a little bit more information and understanding on how this process works and what that would, what the consequence to that would actually look like when it lands on the ground. Anyway, but I'm ready to vote if the rest of us are.
I agree with Board Member Green. I was just going to say too, I think a little bit here when it talks about that, they're talking about the LEA approving the packet as well. That gives those LEAs flexibility as well. But yeah, I think this is a little bit too much for this at this point.
Board Member Brenton?
Sorry, I just am wondering if there's a way to make a caveat, like in accordance with the new law, that packets have to be approved by the state board, that at this time there are no packets approved for credit other than pass fail. Like, is there a way to put something out
I don't
like
think there's
that?
any way you can do that. I mean, I think the law allows that. And if are you saying, maybe just let me make sure I clarify.
We don't have any packets that adhere to standards. We haven't seen any packets that adhere, like there is no
When you say
process for.
Let's be clear, adhere to standards, you mean adhere to the state core standards or to adhere to a criteria?
Well, to the criteria that this law is calling for the state board to have specific recommendations of packets that can be used for credit, for a grade.
Okay, Michelle, do you have a
Just
comment?
that the law does require the state board to review packets. So to say there are none today, but that's going to have to change because the state board is required to review them.
Okay.
And that's my recommendation, is that we put some kind of criteria. It doesn't have to be all this, but something that, otherwise it's just whatever anybody sends in, as long as it's covering the core standards, it's a thumbs up. So I'm confused by if we don't want to put any criteria.
Okay, so then maybe I like the breadth and depth of core standards and demonstrate mastery, but is there something that we can add in about also rigor that matches the course that they would have taken at school, that they've done enough work that, packets kids breeze through in 2 weeks, and that's been part of the problem that Representative Tischer shared, was they're using this to replace a grade that they don't like to fix their GPA, and he wanted to get rid of that and breezing through a really easy packet.
Yeah, and if it's original credit, currently the law allows original credit to be offered. So it's the replacement credit that's different, but the original credit, right now, if we don't do anything, then that means whatever is already out there is what's out there. There is no criteria to say that that's, and I don't want to make it cumbersome, but it certainly is to say, whatever. That's kind of why we're in the situation we're in. So I feel like we should, and it asks us to do that, but If
Yeah,
this committee
okay.
doesn't want to, that's another thing,
And
so.
they've already taken
Oh,
the
I-
course, so then this packet is their replacement for their grade from sometimes.
It's original credit is what we're
Original
talking.
credit. Yeah, okay.
So they know, this is clarifying, they no longer can replace their grade, correct?
Not with the packet method. They cannot replace their grade. They have to take what's called comparable course. Am I using the right term? A comparable course, which would have to be a teacher-led, is what it says in the law. Am I right? Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, I got thumbs up. So if they took a course and let's say they got a D and they wanted to get additional credit, they'd have to take a comparable course, which is not a packet method. It'd have to be a teacher-led course that's comparable.
Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Oh, come on up. Yep.
If we put these words in there, what does this mean to those that are reviewing the packet? So if you look at it and you see ensure breadth and depth, how will that change your review process? What will that additional work, how will you define that? Because I don't feel like we have a good, they're nice words, but they're really meaningless in application unless we have the definition of what that means to you. Can anyone say what staff would do and how you would approach that?
I can, oh, sorry, that's far away. Okay. Amber Wright, Digital and Instructional Materials Specialist. We, like Terry mentioned earlier, in our review process, we have 3 reviewers reviewing each materials that go into the instructional materials process on RIMS. And so we probably would want something that's more specific that we can look at with these reviewers. We do try to get content specific reviewers. So they are, paid in their content specific reviewers, but we would probably want to define those so that they know what they're looking for when they're reviewing those materials.
Do you find it, since there's sorry, I'm just asking, so if we're adding that, if we're going to be reviewing it, do you find it necessary to be specific in this section then? Because I feel like if we're going to be having to review it anyhow, it's basically like that's part of the process, right? So when we're adding to this rule in this section, what it's doing in application is adding to how we will be reviewing it, which is what Member Wood is saying. And it sounds like that's not necessary because it's already part of the process. We're going to have to review and approve them anyways.
Necessarily.
But it's in the rule. It does say, where is that part?
It just has to cover the course standards.
Right, which
Could be anything.
But we approve the core standards, though, right? I don't know. I'm gonna vote against this if we do eventually get to a vote here.
Would adherence to core standards be better than ensure the breadth and depth?
Whatever you guys want to do. I'm just saying without anything, it's just what it is already. And
The
we're
law
gonna,
already says alignment with core standards. So that's the law. It has to align with core standards.
but it allows us to create a standard, and it's not core standard in which I think was the intent of the law, is to allow the state board, and it's not just the state board, I think it's personnel to weigh in on that and say, hey, if this, just because something comes to us, we can say, oh yeah, it's 2 sentences. Yep, I guess they covered, 5 pages. It covered all of section 7 that would normally take 2 weeks, in a regular class. But we can't, it's not the same, but at the same time, if we're not going to put any criteria in there, which is fine. But as long as it just that, it's met those criteria, so we're good.
I agree with what you're saying,
So-
and I think that criteria is already outlined in the rule. That's basically what I'm saying. Is I think
There is
that
no
there's
criteria in the
enough
rule.
in there, but I think there's enough in there when it says in the law and in our rule about what the criteria is for the packets, by saying that it has to align with our core standard, or that it has to what does it say in that? Gosh, I keep missing that line. Include alignment with core standards. Include alignment. I think that's plenty. That to me is plenty.
Elise, did you have anything that you wanted to add or not? Okay. All right, with that being said, so where are we? I would still recommend a criteria. I don't know if this is the right criteria. We have to have this done by when? July 1st, right? It goes into effect. But the actual, the law goes into effect, but the actual criteria, right? Do we have to have that in?
Just hoping to have it done or be able to give LEAs a pretty good idea of what this process will look like at the start of the school year. That's all.
Okay, I actually am going to move this forward and you guys can vote against it. I feel like and if anybody wanted to make something to strike other things, I just feel like there needs to be something there.
Can we divide the motion from, okay, we're not doing the top motion in your motion
No, I was
together.
just
Okay.
moving the bottom. So, okay, so I guess mine would be that the committee adds the words ensure, well, it would be added. Is that the right location? Yeah, I think so. It's right above or right below, that's right. Okay, to ensure the breadth and depth of the course standards, adequate practice and application to demonstrate mastery, and methods of accountability to demonstrate mastery. I guess that's a little duplicative, right? Or maybe it's just and methods of accountability. Is that enough? Yeah, maybe. I could take out the adequate practice and application, and methods of accountability to demonstrate mastery. Yeah, that would work. In line 161, after the words including alignment with course standards that the state board establishes under sections 53E 3501, 53E 4202, and then that's the end. So any additional discussion to that?
It's just that I actually liked the practice part.
The practice, oh, sorry,
that
I
you
thought
took
that was in
out.
there.
But the fact that
Sorry,
Elise always
we put that
already
back in.
talked about, by
Just
adding
the
in this
demonstrate to demonstrate mastery.
method of accountability, are we going
That's it.
over and above what's required in the definition of the packet method? She already mentioned that, which we did leave in that. So anyway, I'm a no right now. I think
Well, we can leave that, we can take that out and just put the breadth and depth and the adequate practice and application. So, okay. No comments on that then? All right, I'll leave it the way it is. You guys can vote no. All those in favor? Yes. All those opposed?
I am a yes for the sake of discussion at the full board.
Yes, I will too.
Okay, so,
I have to follow up with another meeting.
yeah, so that passes 3-2. And like I said, if there's if even staff have additional feedback, I'm open for modifications to get that right, but I feel like there needs to be something there a little more, so, okay. Let's see, that would put us, we're making some other
Yeah.
recommendations here, if
Do you want
anybody
me to
want to
make
move
this
those?
motion that was funky, that First Amendment? Elise, are you driving or is Leah?
You want this one or the other one above it?
Well, we need to do both, I think, because the one that you were talking about above is the one that, like, we mention ourselves or whatnot, right? Yeah, okay.
Except for now, it wouldn't be striking that, because that just was left in according to, I'm just saying the amendment actually is has to be, it's related to this.
Yeah, the II.
Yeah, so it would have to stay the state board shall, and maybe the A's stricken, right? And then, so I think A would be stricken, the rest of it would need to stay based on what we just, at least tell me if that
So
works.
then we could just cut, oh, sorry, so then we could just, the motion could just be to strike lines 156 and strike, just the copy there. In A, not the other two, right?
Yeah, so they would strike A.
So you're striking A, but you're keeping I and II. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I mean, right, that would be right, considering we just amended the other part. Those, we amended 157 through whatever the numbering is now.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out how to do that because you took away the introductory paragraph of I and II.
So it would have to be A, B, right? Those pieces would have to be A and B.
Is this yeah, I guess it could be.
Could we do a technical?
Yeah.
Well, it could be that we strike that and then make the technical, and then ask staff if they could bring a technical change that would align with the writing practices.
I'm fine with that.
Does that work, Michelle? The writing manual? administrative rules writing. So it'd strike A and then ask staff to make technical changes so it aligns with the writing style for writing rules. Does that work? All right.
That works.
Apologies, Chair. So if we strike A and I, and then 2 would just say ensure alignment with core standards. And then we would
Add the amendment on.
add the amendment right there after the core standards. And so it would ensure alignment with core standards and ensure the breadth and depth of core standards right there. And then it would move on to maintain the comprehensive list. So it would just be these 2. And then I'll technical change, update the numbering.
Okay. Does that?
Okay.
So Elise, does she not want the align the numbering with rule writing standards in the motion?
Can we put align the numbering with rule writing standards in the motion? Does that work or not?
I think that should work.
Okay. Okay, so the motion before the committee is to amend R277705 by striking in accordance with Title 53G, Chapter 3, Utah Administrative Rulemaking, 157, that's the number, Act, make rules or policies that, so striking that, and then and align the numbering with rulemaking, with rule writing standards as outlined below. Okay, any questions? All right, those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously. And then possibly one more motion, did you?
Yeah, there's that one more down here. The line 137, amend line 137 to say an LEA may award original credit through the packet method if the packet adheres to the standards and.
Okay, so the motion before the board is that the LEA may award original credit through the packet method if the packet adheres to the standards, and that's how that would read. So so standards prescribed in state board rule, we're just repeating what the law says there, right? That's all written in law? Is that the way it's written in law?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to look. The problem is that it is contradictory also in law.
Okay.
So we were trying to clarify for LEAs.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay. I'll go ahead and accept or go ahead and take a vote on that.
Aye.
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 Joanne, did you say aye too? I couldn't. Oh, it was okay. Kind of came in
Yes.
same time. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. It
Aye.
came in together. So that passes unanimously. And are there additional amendments or questions on this rule that anyone would like to make? If not, I'm open for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
No, we have to pass
Motion
this
to
rule
pass
to go to
this
the
rule.
board. Good
Sorry,
try.
I forgot. All right, I'll do it. I'd like to make a motion. The committee approves R277705, secondary school completion and diplomas, draft 1, as amended on first reading and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading.
Any discussion? Okay, so the recommended motion before the board is that, or before the committee, is that the committee approves R27770705, secondary school completion diplomas, draft 1, as amended on first reading and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay, board member Real.
Motion to adjourn.
The motion before us is to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. That passes unanimously. Thanks for all the work today.
Just
Went a little
looking for
bit
a
long, but I
packet-
think we got
a packet for our next standards meeting. I'd like to complete.
Okay, have a good day. Thanks those of you that joined online. Appreciate your support and help.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.